Chapter 526. Kacha, along with Tan Shio's furious roar, the entire space between heaven and earth seemed to crack, and the sound of eggshells breaking was clearly transmitted to his ears. What's going on? Tan Shio's complexion greatly changed. When a message appeared in his mind, he suddenly felt like weeping but had no tears. It was the message left to him by the humanoid old man. After the humanoid old man dissipated, this space would collapse. As long as he pulled out the divine sword inserted in the distance, he would be transmitted out. In the distance, Yang Lu was tongue-tied as he looked at the surrounding scene. The sudden appearance of the spatial crack made a deep fear rise in his heart. Even though he didn't understand the existence of Taoist, immortal cultivation, and soul cultivation, the fragmentation of the spatial still made him despair. Tan Shio, where's Tan Shio? Yang Lu muttered in a trembling voice as he ran toward the mountain. What's going on? Wasn't that mountain burning? Where did that ice ladder go? Why did I see that mountain collapse? When Yang Lu saw the mountain in the distance, his mouth opened wide again and he was completely dumbfounded. Whoosh! A figure flickered lightning fast from the distance. Yang Lu only felt a pair of big hands grabbing his shoulders. He suddenly felt as though he was riding the clouds and flying in the air. Tan Shio. Yang Lu raised his hand and rubbed his eyes. After he was sure that he wasn't seeing things, he involuntarily exclaimed. Shut up! Tan Shio said in a deep voice. I know you have a lot of questions in your heart, but now is not the time to tell you. I'll try my best to tell you anything you want to know after we leave this place. All right. Yang Lu nodded repeatedly. With Tan Shio taking him to fly, the fear in his heart subsided a lot. Bam! When Tan Shio's feet touched the ground, he directly let go of Yang Li's body. His feet soared into the air and dashed toward the towering giant sword. A sword technique appeared in his mind out of nowhere. Tan Shio chanted in his mind, and both of his hands struck out a series of palm prints. Bang! The gray rock on the surface of the longsword exploded, and a huge sword tens of thousands of feet tall appeared in front of Tan Shio. Moreover, the huge sword was shrinking at an extremely fast speed. In just a dozen or so seconds, it had already become the length of an ordinary longsword. Then, it circled around Tan Shio a few times, and with a buzzing sound, it drilled into Tan Shio's body. It's in my palm. Tan Shio controlled it with his mind, and the long sword appeared directly in his right palm. It was as if a pattern was imprinted on his palm. Soon, Tan Shio returned to Yang Li's side. After reaching out to grab him, the long sword appeared out of thin air. With a forceful slash, a spatial rift was torn open. As for Tan Shio, he grabbed Yang Lu and directly entered the spatial crack. In the next moment, he and Yang Lu had already appeared in the space of the cave they had arrived at previously, on the platform covered with silk cloth. Let's go, this place is about to collapse. Tan Shio grabbed Yang Lu and rushed up the stairs like a bolt of lightning. When he rushed to the third door suddenly slammed shut. At this moment, the long sword in Tan Shio's hand once again appeared out of thin air. With a fierce slash, the two doors made of special materials were cut off like tofu, and then Tan Shio stored them into his interspatial ring. The second door. The third door. Tan Shio used the same method, and after storing everything into his interspatial ring, he quickly rushed to the surface. I'm finally out. Tan Shio recalled the encounter he had inside, and his heart was still beating crazily. Although the yin-yang spirit who had been swallowed up by the black hole, his cultivation had actually benefited greatly. He had thought that if he wanted to break through to the peak of the Viscera transformation realm, it would take him at least 8 to 10 years, but he had never expected that such a great opportunity would allow him to achieve it so easily. However, he was well aware that this kind of undue haste had its advantages and disadvantages. The disadvantage was that he still couldn't control his own power. He must settle down and slowly familiarize himself with it, and then use it slowly. Only then would he be able to truly reach the peak of the Viscera transformation realm. I'm out. Yang Lu felt like he had just survived a disaster. Looking at the sunny weather outside and the messy construction site outside, the feeling of breathing smoother made his eyes brim with tears. Suddenly, he turned to look at Tan Xiu. His eyes stared at Tan Xiu and shouted, "Tell me. Tell me what the hell is going on." Whoosh! 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 4 figures flashed out of the ancient tomb's entrance and appeared in front of Tan Xiu in the blink of an eye. "Boss!" the 4 respectfully called out. Tan Xiu nodded and said with a smile, "Go to the Long's dining hall and book a private box first. Wait for me there. I'll catch up later." "Understood." The 4 nodded and quickly left. Yang Lu rubbed his eyes again. He found that the time the 4 big men came out was too short, and their speed just now was also extremely fast. "Tan Xiu, who are you people?" Tan Xiu said with a smile, "You've learned a lot by following me today, haven't you?" "Actually, I can tell you, but not now. I told you that you don't have the qualifications to make me tell you something." Yang Lu angrily said, "I followed you into the ancient tomb, yet I didn't get any benefits and almost died inside. Is this your answer to me?" Tan Xiu nodded and said, "That's right. This is my answer to you. In any case, I gave you a fortune. If you can fulfill my request, I won't take you as my disciple. I'll treat you as a friend and give you that fortune." Yang Lu fell into silence. He stared at Tan Xiu for a long time and then asked, "The fortune you said, does it mean that you can understand everything inside the ancient tomb in that special space?" "That's right." Tan Xiu directly nodded. Yang Lu suddenly smiled. His smile was very bright and crazy, because he felt that he had seen a window from Tan Xiu. It was a new world full of wonders and magnificence that he had never experienced before. He had decided. Later, he would be Tan Xiu's dogskin plaster. Even if he had to pay any price, he must open the window to appreciate the mysterious and colorful life in that world. "Tan Xiu, I want some benefits." Yang Lu stretched out his hand and restored his playful and cheeky appearance. Tan Xiu rolled his eyes and said, "You can have some benefits, but it's a big meal. Consider it as a reward for helping me open 2 portals. Don't push your luck, else I'll cancel your fortune." Yang Lu raised his head and asked, 5 billion, right?" Tang Xiu understood what he was asking, so he nodded and said, "Yeah, it's 5 billion. Of course, if you're willing to give me 10 billion, I'll gladly accept it." Yang Lu rolled his eyes and strode outside. Tan Xiu let out a faint smile and caught up with him in a few steps. He gave an order to the security guards and strode outside. Although the space below had collapsed, the buildings above had collapsed, so Tan Xiu wasn't worried that it would cause casualties. However, he still ordered the security guards to stay away and told them not to let anyone near the collapsed area. More than an hour later, Tan Xiu and Yang Lu appeared at the entrance of Star City's Long's dining hall. Since the security guards outside had been replaced, he had to take out his membership card to get the qualification to enter. Inside the presidential suite, Long Zhengyu had arrived ahead of time after receiving a call from Tan Xiu. At this time, his face was full of exhaustion and deep exhaustion. If it weren't for the fact that he had too many things to deal with, he would have fallen asleep at any time. "How's the pacification work going?" After Tan Xiu motioned Long Zhengyu to sit on the sofa, he asked. "Everything that can be done has been done, but the aftermath can't be dealt with in a short time," said Long Zhengyu bitterly. "This accident is too big, and there are a lot of casualties among the workers." Tan Xiu sighed, "None of us wanted such a thing to happen." Sighing, Tan Xiu said, "But for the families of the dead and injured workers, you must do your job well. It's okay to spend more money, for this is related to their future life and the reputation of the Long Group." "I understand. Don't worry." Long Zhengyu heavily nodded. Upon hearing this, Tan Xiu didn't talk about this issue anymore. He reached out to pinch Long Zhengyu's shoulder and began to massage him. His action made Long Zhengyu stare blankly for a moment. Then, his heart warmed up, and the tiredness and drowsiness subsided a lot. Tan Xiu's technique was very peculiar. Along with his massage, Long Zhenyu's spirit, which had just been roused, slowly relaxed again. As Tan Xiu's fingers moved, he began to massage Long Zhenyu's head. As he pressed Long Zhenyu's temples, Long Zhenyu slowly fell asleep. Take him to the next room. Let him sleep for 3 hours. Wake him up after 3 hours, said Tan Xiu to his 4 subordinates who came in advance. Understood. The 4 experts of the everlasting feast hall complied and took Long Zhenyu away. With a strange expression, Yang Lu looked at Tan Xiu and said, Tan Xiu, I found that you're very good to him. It's like, you're treating him like a family member. We're friends, said Tan Xiu lightly. Yang Lu was stunned. Friends? He used to think that his senior brothers were the closest people to him. But after his master passed away, only then did he see the true colors of his senior brothers. Therefore, he hardened his heart and cut off any contact with them. Furthermore, he had been alone all these years. Apart from looking for women all day long, he didn't have any friends. Suddenly, he was very envious of Long Zhenyu. Looking at Yang Li's complicated expression, Tan Xiu lightly said, if you're willing to pour your heart and lungs out, maybe we can become friends in the future. After being silent for a long while, Yang Li seriously said, I promise I won't steal your things in the future. Cough, cough. Tan Xiu was at a loss whether he had to cry or laugh upon hearing Yang Li's words. He wanted to be friends with him, but he wouldn't steal his things. This guy was really a fighter among the prodigies. If you dare steal my things, I'll break your 3rd leg. Tan Xiu jokingly replied. However, it was this sentence that made Yang Lu shrink his head. Chapter 527. The Long's dining hall's dishes were delicious, yet the price was so expensive that it made one's heart tremble. Despite the fact that Tan Xiu had a lot of wealth, he was still a bit upset when he paid the bill. If he didn't know that Long's dining hall was Zhenyu's favorite, he really wouldn't want to come here to burn money. At noon, Long Zhenyu sleepily walked out of his bedroom and saw Tan Xiu sitting on the sofa, quietly reading a book. His spirit immediately turned better as he said with a smile, Thanks, Tan Xiu. Tan Xiu let out a faint smile and said, Let's not be polite. The body is the capital of revolution. As long as you have a good rest, you will have the spirit to do more things. Contact Kang Xia today and ask her to give you some of our company's healthcare products. After taking them for a while, your physical fitness will be improved. Long Zhenyu's eyes lit up as he asked, The magnificent Tang Corporation's healthcare products have finally been produced. When will they be put into the market? It should be on the 1st of next month, said Tan Xiu. Long Zhenyu clapped his hands and said with a smile, My younger brother has been thinking about the news of the healthcare products being put into the market all day long. He seems to have a project in Shanghai recently, and I heard that it needs a lot of money. But I'm sure you're also aware of the Long family's recent situation. The Walled Hill Village project, the New City project, as well as the Overseas 9 Dragons Island project, have nearly used all of the Long family's reserve funds. That brat is so short of money that he's going crazy. Tan Xiu was silent for a moment before he lightly said, If you're willing to listen to me, don't help him with a penny. An uncut jade would not be useful. He had been used to having a smooth life since he was young, so he had to experience some hardships. In fact, if he were my younger brother, I would have directly let him live and let him not get a penny from the family for a certain period of time. It's best to let him taste the feeling of a hero stumped by a penny. Are you sure you'll do that, Tan Xiu? Asked Long Zhenyu with a strange expression. Not only will I do that, but I'll also deliberately set up a stumbling block for him if the opportunity permits. I'll deliberately trap him and deceive him. It's best if I can swindle all the hard-earned money he's been working so hard for. After tasting the feeling of not being able to go to heaven and down to earth, he knows that life is hard and that it's not easy to earn money. Only then will he be able to cherish life and quickly mature. Long Zhenyu asked, Aren't you afraid that he'll hate you in the future? If I'm willing to give him all my wealth, the entire inheritance of my family, and even the position of the patriarch, will he still hate me if I give him everything I have? Said Tang Xiu lightly. Long Zhengyu was silent. He suddenly understood Tan Xiu's thoughts. At this moment, he felt a tinge of regret. He regretted that Tan Xiu was not his blood-related brother. Ring, 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 his phone rang. Tan Xiu grabbed the phone and looked at the caller ID. His brows suddenly furrowed. The mobile phone number was Sujinin's name. He also asked Wang Daoyuan for this phone number when he was in the capital. However, he didn't expect that Sujinin would call him. What's the matter? Tan Xiu asked straightforwardly after the call was connected. There was a moment of silence on the other side of the phone. Then, she slowly asked, "You seem to know that I called you?" Tan Xiu said, "Yes, I know. I asked Wang Daoyuan for your phone number." "Why?" "No reason. I just want to know whether you're dead or alive, and what you can do for Grandma in the future." Sujinin fell into silence again. She didn't speak, and Tan Xiu wasn't in a hurry. The two kept talking on the phone. After 5 or 6 minutes of silence, Sujinin said with a special emotion, "Can you help my dad?" "How can I help him?" asked Tan Xiu. "I know that you have the ability to get him out of prison early," said Sujinin. "I do have the ability to get him out of prison early, but I won't do it now," said Tan Xiu lightly. "Some people must pay the price for what they have done. 2 years. This is the bottom line in my heart. I won't be able to vent my hatred if he doesn't stay in prison for 2 years. Of course, if he has the ability to get out of prison early, I won't bother with him anymore." "Tan Xiu, what's the difference between you and my dad?" Sujinin angrily shouted. "I don't know what the difference is, but I know that anyone who bullies my mom in this world will have to pay a painful price," said Tan Xiu indifferently. Sujinin was silent again. After a long while, she bitterly said, "I'm going to get married. I want my parents to appear at my wedding." "You want to get married?" Tan Xiu squinted his eyes and coldly snorted. "If you dare to get married, I have a way to ruin your so-called husband's reputation and make him have a miserable life no matter who you marry. If I'm in a bad mood one day, maybe your so-called husband will make you a widow early, just like the man who was suddenly killed by your mom. Also, I want to make it clear again that I'm not afraid of you marrying someone else. I have enough connections and money to play with you." You bastard!" roared Sujinin furiously. "I'm indeed a bastard," sneered Tan Xiu. "But why did I become a bastard? I'm sure your family knows my character the best, right?" Clap, Sujinin directly hung up the phone. Tan Xiu seemed to have expected that she would hang up the phone. He dialed again, but Sujinin directly hung up again. Tan Xiu didn't stop even after repeatedly hanging up more than a dozen times. Sujinin finally picked up, but she didn't speak. "You can hate me," said Tan Xiu indifferently. "But I hope you have time to think about what you've done in the past. That framing and calling the police. If I hadn't changed, I might have been the one in prison now. And among your family, who would have thought of a way to get me out of there? I've said everything I need to say. But I'll give you one last piece of advice. Your family is not only your parents. You're already so old, so you should be more familiar with each other." After saying that, Tan Xiu didn't give Sujinin time to speak and directly hung up the phone. At the side. Seeing Tan Xiu hang up the phone, Yang Lu raised his thumbs up and praised, "Brother Tan Xiu, you've got a really good character. You're a real man, taking revenge and complaining. You're a real man, and you can't be soft-hearted to those who want to harm you." Long Zhengyu glanced at Yang Lu with a strange expression and lightly said, "Brother Yang Lu, right? I do like Tan Xiu's character, but I don't like yours. You'd better shut up before you figure out the truth of the matter." Yang Lu was furious upon hearing it. He coldly snorted and said, "Even Tan Xiu didn't say anything to me. What qualifications do you have to say that? Did I say anything wrong?" Long Zhengyu glanced at Tan Xiu. Then, he deeply looked at Yang Lu and said, if the man in prison is Tan Xiu's uncle and the one who called Tan Xiu is his cousin, then I want to ask you something. What qualifications do you have to comment on their family's affairs? What? Yang Lu was dumbfounded. He looked at Tan Xiu's indifferent expression. His lips squirmed a few times, but he ultimately didn't speak a word. Tan Xiu sighed inwardly. He looked at Long Zhengyu and said, I'm studying in Shanghai, and I can only go back to Star City in the future except for holidays. Help me deal with the prison and don't let him suffer too much inside. Long Zhengyu nodded and said, don't worry. I know what to do. Tan Xiu nodded and said, remember to learn more about his performance inside. If his performance is good, find a way to get him out at the end of the year. Spend as much money and use as many connections as you want. Long Zhengyu sighed and said, those who don't know you may think that you have a heart of stone if they know about your affairs. But those who know you are aware that you're actually very soft inside despite looking cold and ruthless on the surface. Don't worry. My Long family still has the ability to do so. Tan Xiu nodded and said, I have some other things to deal with. This brat will stay here with you, and you have to entertain him well. Long Zhengyu glanced at Yang Lu and then said, let him stay here. I still have a lot of things to do. Tan Xiu forced a smile and said, Zhengyu, I told you to entertain him well because I want you to find him a few girls who are willing to accompany him. I advise you not to offend this brat. Although some of his means are shameful, but if you provoke him, I'm afraid your Long family will be in big trouble. What do you mean? Long Zhengyu furrowed his brows and asked with a puzzled expression. Tan Xiu shook his hands and said, this guy is a thief, an ancestor-level thief. Do you want to see countless things stolen from your Long family one day? Do you want your Long family to have a lot of shameful things stolen? Long Zhengyu was tongue-tied as he looked at Yang Li's proud expression. His expression changed several times before he finally forced a smile and said, I know what to do. Yang Lu raised his thumbs up and praised, Brother Long, a wise man submits to circumstances. I'm really happy for you that you can understand. However, since you're Tan Xiu's brother, I won't covet your family's things. Me? I'd better rely on my own ability to go out and seek pleasure. Long Zhengyu could only force a wry smile inwardly, but he could only put on an obsequious smile on his face. He knew Tan Xiu's ability. Someone who could be praised as an ancestor-level thief by Tan Xiu was probably a godly thief. He naturally didn't want to provoke such a person. Soon, Tan Xiu left the Long's dining hall. Although he had eaten breakfast here, it was now time for lunch. He called Kang Xia and arranged to meet at his family's restaurant. Then, he drove straight there. This time, he came back in a hurry, but he had plenty of time. After all, he had asked for leave from Han Qinggu. Even if he didn't go for a few days, she wouldn't be able to say anything. Ugh, is this my family's restaurant? Standing at the entrance of his family's restaurant, Tan Xiu looked up at the spacious entrance as well as the 4 welcoming ladies in Cheongsam outside the entrance. Welcome. Today, the 3rd chapter is presented. The last day of the double monthly votes. Please guarantee the monthly votes. Chapter 528. The reconstructed 4-story restaurant had a very imposing entrance with a total of 8 storefronts on both sides. Apart from the storefronts, the interior was occupied by the restaurant. The most important thing was that the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th floors were all built into luxury boxes. Soaring Dragon Pavilion. The previous name of the restaurant had been changed. The current imposing name was something that Tan Xiu had heard his parents talking about when he returned to Star City last time. After entering the restaurant's lobby, the cashier at the cashier counter was no longer someone Tan Xiu was familiar with. However, when he saw a woman wearing headphones called Sun Yu coming down the stairs, a smile immediately appeared on his face. Sun Yu used to be the cashier of the restaurant, a diligent and honest woman. Big sis Sun. Tan Xiu called out with a smile. Upon seeing Tan Xiu, Sun Yu immediately looked pleasantly surprised and said with a smile, "Little boss, how come you're back? It seems like this is your first time coming here since our restaurant reopened half a month ago, no?" "I went back to Star City to handle some things, so I came here to take a look." Tan Xiu nodded. "I thought I came to the wrong place when I was outside just now. How come this place has changed?" "Our restaurant's business is too good," said Sun Yu with a smile. "Many guests who want to dine here have to book a few days in advance. Therefore, the boss thought that we should buy all the original houses and then rebuild them. Your father is very capable. He spent a lot of money and worked day and night. Finally, after a lot of time, the new restaurant was built. He even changed the name of our restaurant." "Is Mom here?" Tan Xiu felt relieved and smilingly said. "The boss is in his office on the 4th floor. Do you want me to take you there?" Tan Xiu shook his head and smilingly said, "Forget it. I'll go there myself." At this moment, a middle-aged woman in work clothes came in, followed by several staff members in blue work clothes carrying boxes of wine. The handwriting on their chests indicated that they were all employees of the magnificent Tang Corporation. "Manager's son, the god's nectar has been delivered. There are 200 boxes in total. You're responsible for receiving it," said the middle-aged woman with a smile. Sun Yu nodded and said with a smile, "You've worked hard." The middle-aged woman said, "Manager's son, today is the day our magnificent Tang Corp will distribute the goods to all parts of the country. The workers are loading the containers, so there are only a few of them here. Do you think you can get your staff to help? Help me move it in from the car." Sun Yu said, "I'll arrange for someone to move it immediately." The middle-aged woman nodded and glanced at Tan Xiu, saying, "Is he also a staff member here? Hurry up and move the wine. Remember to be careful. Our magnificent Tang Corp's god's nectar is very expensive. You can't afford to pay for it if you break it." Tan Xiu was stunned, and Sun Yu was also stunned. Immediately, Sun Yu woke up from her daze and was about to explain when Tan Xiu waved his hand at her and then rolled up his sleeves with a smile. "Okay, I'll move it now." The middle-aged woman nodded her head and turned to walk outside. "Little," Sun Yu hurriedly called out, but her words were interrupted by Tan Xiu. "It's all right. It's our family's business. I just happened to come across it, so it's fine to help move it. Just do your thing. I'll go find my mom later," said Tan Xiu with a smile and walked outside. In the open space outside the restaurant, 4 medium-sized container cars with their doors opened and 4 drivers were waiting. Tan Xiu casually walked to the back door of one of the cars and moved 2 boxes of God's nectar from it. Hey, aren't you a little too bold? Moving 2 boxes at once, who will be responsible if they fall? Put it down. Move 1 box at a time." The middle-aged woman angrily shouted. Tan Xiu didn't put it down, but said with a smile, "It's all right. I'm strong enough to move 2 boxes at once." The middle-aged woman strode to block Tan Xiu's path and angrily shouted, "Nonsense. Even if you're a Hercules, you still have to move 1 box at a time. Do you know that there are 6 bottles of God's nectar in this box? You should have heard of God's nectar, right? The price of 1 bottle is 18,888, how much are 6 bottles? How much are 2 boxes of 12 bottles? If you fall, you won't be able to pay for it with a year's salary, right? Put it down quickly and move 1 box at a time." Tan Xiu opened his mouth, but he didn't know what to say. However, he appreciated the middle-aged woman's working attitude. After all, she was so serious and responsible. She was afraid of breaking the god's nectar, which was worthy of his appreciation. However, her attitude when communicating with others was, "What you?" The middle-aged woman angrily said. "Just do what I say." Tan Xiu forced a smile and said, "I can really move 2 boxes at once. Let alone 2, I can even move 4 boxes at once. How about this? If I really fall, I'll pay for it, okay?" The middle-aged woman angrily shouted, "Did I not calculate it clearly with you just now? Or is your self-confidence inflated too much? You want to pay? Do you think you're a second-generation rich kid?" Tan Xiu looked at the work card worn on the middle-aged woman's chest and frowned. "You're called Shin Meiyun, aren't you? The supervisor of the magnificent Tang Corporation should be the supervisor of a warehouse, right?" "You're right," said Shin Meiyun proudly. "I'm really satisfied with your responsible attitude towards work." Tan Xiu shook his head. "But your attitude when communicating with others is very hard for me to accept." The magnificent Tang Corporation's staff training should teach you, as the management staff, to communicate with others with the best attitude, right? Shin Meiyun was stunned. She didn't expect that a small restaurant employee would dare to educate her. Although she now realized that there was a problem with her attitude, it was hard for her to accept being criticized to her face. Because of this, her expression became much more angry, and she scolded, "What does my attitude have to do with you? It's you who didn't listen to my advice and insisted on moving 2 boxes of God's nectar, so forget it. Who the hell do you think you are? Do I need to explain it to you?" Tan Xiu shook his head and moved the 2 boxes of God's nectar, ready to bypass Shin Meiyun. But just as he took a step forward, he was stopped by Shin Meiyun. "I say, young man, what's the matter with you? Don't tell me you don't understand human language. I told you, move 1 box or don't move at all. Do you really think you're a second-generation rich kid and have nowhere to spend your money?" Shin Meiyun angrily retorted. "I'm a second-generation rich kid," said Tan Xiu with a frown. Shin Meiyun rolled her eyes and contemptuously said, "If you're a second-generation rich kid, then I'm a first-generation rich kid. You're so young, yet you're so impractical. You really can't carve a rotten wood. If you were a second-generation rich kid, would you still need to work in this soaring dragon pavilion?" While speaking, Sun Yu came out with several porters with a pen and paper. Upon seeing Tan Xiu and Shin Meiyun's posture, she came over and asked with a confused expression, "Little boss, what are you doing?" Tan Xiu forced a smile and said, "I told her to move 2 boxes, but she insisted that I move only 1 box. Now she's stopping me from moving it." "Little boss?" Shin Meiyun stared blankly. She looked at Sun Yu and asked, "Manager Sun Yu, what did you call him?" Sun Yu said, "Little boss. He's our boss's son, so naturally he's the little boss of our soaring dragon pavilion." Shin Meiyun's eyes were not big, but after hearing this, they were wide open, revealing a horrified expression in her eyes. After looking at Tan Xiu, her body swayed and she hurriedly said with a trembling voice, "Boss. Yes, yes, yes. I'm sorry, I didn't know it was you." At this time, Shin Meiyun was frightened because she knew who opened the soaring dragon pavilion. It was opened by the big boss's mother. And the big boss's mother only had 1 son. And at this moment, since this young man before her was the little boss of the soaring dragon pavilion, then he was her big boss. Oh my God. What stupid thing did I just do? I actually made the big boss a porter. I actually spoke rudely to the big boss. I won't be fired by the big boss, right? Tan Xiu forced a smile and said, "Whether it's me or not, you shouldn't have spoken to others with that kind of attitude. Didn't Kang Xia tell you that each and every employee of the magnificent Tang Corporation represents the face of the company? Forget it. Put down your work first after you go back." Shin Meiyun's heart trembled and she hurriedly said with a trembling voice, "Boss, I know I was wrong. Please give me another chance. Please don't fire me. I'll definitely correct myself in the future and won't lose the face of the magnificent Tang Corporation." "I won't fire you," said Tan Xiu. "Go back to the staff training and then exercise yourself again. You can return to your current position after the new year." Upon hearing it, Shin Meiyun immediately said with excitement, "Thank you, boss. Thank you very much. I'll report to the training department after I go back. I'll definitely correct myself according to your instructions." Tan Shou didn't speak again and bypassed her to directly walk inside. With a strange expression, Sun Yu's eyes retracted from Tan Shou's back to Shin Meiyun and curiously said, "Big sis Sun, did you provoke the little boss? He has a very good character. He's very kind to people and doesn't put on any airs toward our employees. Manager Sun, why didn't you remind me just now?" Shin Meiyun bitterly sighed. "He's the little boss of your Soaring Dragon Pavilion and the big boss of our magnificent Tang Corporation. I was afraid that he would drop 2 boxes of God's nectar at once, so I scolded him and told him to only move 1 box at a time." "Pfft," Sun Yu gave a thumbs up and praised, "you actually reprimanded your big boss? You're really awesome." Wait, what did you just say?" Little boss is the big boss of your magnificent Tang Corporation? You're not joking, right? You don't know." Shin Meiyun was confused. "I heard it from the director of our winery when he was drunk once. He said that the big boss of our magnificent Tang Corporation is the little boss of the Soaring Dragon Pavilion. Furthermore, our director also ordered us to be careful every time we deliver the wine." Sun Yu turned to look at the restaurant's entrance and was struck by a storm. She finally understood why only the Soaring Dragon Pavilion could buy God's nectar from the magnificent Tang Corporation among all the hotels in the city. It turned out that it was the same company. Also, the little boss was really a good person. He had such a big identity, yet he was still so kind and even willing to condescend to be a porter. "Thank you for the one and only 1 million yuan reward from the Silver Lord. This is the biggest affirmation of Quiet Night's new book after so many years. Thank you very much." Chapter 529. The 200 boxes of God's nectar were all moved into the restaurant in half an hour. Looking at the few porters who were panting and sweating profusely, Tan Shou ran to a nearby store and bought 2 packs of cigarettes and a bottle of water for each of them, and then politely handed them over. "Thank you, little brother." The porters had never received such treatment before. With a sincere smile on their faces, they thanked Tan Shou one after another. Although the cigarettes were not good quality and were only about 20 yuan per pack, and the water was only mineral water, such small things made them feel very warm. Tan Shou smiled and said a few polite words. Then, he turned to Sun Yu and said, "Remember to give 2 packs of cigarettes and a bottle of water to all the masters who deliver the wine." "All right, I'll do it myself." Sun Yu looked at Tan Shou with a bit more respect in her eyes. Tan Shou smiled and immediately went to the elevator. After pressing the elevator button, he looked at the lively scene in the hall. It was lunchtime now. Only a few tables in the entire hall were unoccupied, while the other 40 to 50 tables were full. Waiters in uniform were working with smiles on their faces. Such a scene. Tan Shou was very satisfied because he knew how much his mother had paid for the development of the restaurant to this point. As long as his mother was happy, he felt that everything was worth it. After coming to the 4th floor, Tan Shou found the general manager's office according to the door number. After knocking on the door, his mother's voice came from inside. Tan Shou then pushed the door and walked in. "Shou, how come it's you?" Su Lingyun was sitting at the desk and reading some documents. She asked incredulously when she saw Tan Shou coming in. "Mom, there's a construction accident at the Long family's Walled Hill village." Tan Shou said with a smile, "Since our family's real estate is there, I rushed back from Shanghai to see the situation. I came to see you on the way." "Shou, is the accident serious over there?" Su Lingyun quickly asked. "You said that our family's real estate is there. Will you be implicated?" Tan Shou smiled and said, "The accident over there is being dealt with, and it will be over soon. Don't worry, that's the Long family's project. It has nothing to do with me, and I won't be implicated in any way." Only then did Su Lingyun feel relieved. She smiled and said, "As long as you're fine. Shou, if you come back like this, won't you miss your classes?" Tan Shou smiled and said, "Mom, it's not like you don't know your son's academic performance. Actually, I've already finished all the first-year courses by myself. Now, at school, besides attending classes, I spend most of my time in the school library, learning more knowledge so that I can become more capable in the future. Don't worry. I can't delay my studies. Nodding her head in satisfaction, Su Lingyun smiled and said, I knew it. My son is the best. By the way, is this your first time coming to our newly built restaurant? How was it? Isn't it grand? Tan Xiu gave a thumbs up and praised, very stylish. When I came here just now, I thought I went to the wrong place. Also, the business seems to be doing well. Su Lingyun pulled Tan Xiu to the sofa in the corner and smilingly said, it's more than good. It's simply too good. Our current restaurant is more than 10 times bigger than before, but it's still full of guests every day. I heard you yelling before that you'll get cramps from counting money. But now, we're earning so much money that we can't even count it anymore. That's a good thing, Tan Xiu couldn't help laughing. Su Lingyun smiled and exchanged a few words with Tan Xiu. Then, she suddenly recalled something and quickly asked, Xiu, have you had lunch since you came here at this time? Not yet. Tan Xiu shook his head. Su Lingyun quickly got up and said, Mom will make it for you. Just wait here. Tan Xiu hurriedly stopped her and said with a smile, Mom, just ask someone to make it and send it here. You don't have to do it yourself. I'll deal with the things here today and return to Shanghai tomorrow. Let's talk about it. All right. Shortly after, the fragrant meal was delivered. Su Lingyun accompanied Tan Xiu to finish eating. The mother and son chatted for a while before Tan Xiu left and rushed to the magnificent Tang Corporation. On the way there, he called Kang Xia and learned that she was not in the company, but in the 6th warehouse. He directly changed his route and rushed there. Boss. Kang Xia, who was wearing an engineering hat and business attire, came to greet Tan Xiu accompanied by 7 or 8 employees. Are the health products produced by our company stored in the 6th warehouse? Tan Xiu asked with a smile. That's right. Our company has stockpiled a lot of health products and we're waiting for them to be shipped to all major cities in the country in a week. Also, we'll use the hunger marketing method according to your previous sales model. We'll distribute the products 4 times a month and once a week, but the quantity is limited. I haven't had the time to ask, but what's the name of the health products? Tan Xiu asked with a smile. Also, what's the price? Tang Xiu asked with a smile. The healthcare oral liquid is priced the same as God's nectar, 18,888 yuan per box. There are 2 bottles in each box. Not bad. Tan Xiu nodded and said with a smile. How are you doing here? When will you return to the company? We've just checked the inventory, so we can go back now, said Kang Xia. Let's go. Tan Xiu said with a smile. In the evening, Tan Xiu, Kang Xia, and Andy had dinner together. After sending them back to their residence, he then rushed to Southgate Town. On the way there, he contacted Chen Zhizhong and learned that the Endless Virtue Pharmaceutical and the Everlasting Feast Hall had entered a business cooperation. The Endless Virtue Pharmaceutical would prioritize selling a lot of precious medicinal herbs to the Everlasting Feast Hall. Ring, 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 just as Tan Xiu's car entered the Southgate Town's gate, his mobile phone rang. After he picked it up, he said, Xiao Xue, is there something you need? Gu Xiaoshue's voice came from the phone, Boss, I just got the news that someone is negotiating the lease of Clam Island in the South China Sea. I'm sure you'll be interested in the identity of the other party. Who is it? Asked Tan Xiu. The Yao family in the imperial capital, said Gu Xiaoshue. Tan Xiu's complexion slightly changed as he asked in a deep voice, Are you sure it's the Yao family in the imperial capital? Who's the person in charge of leasing the island? It's definitely the Yao family, and the person in charge is Yao Xinhua, said Gu Xiaoshue. Why did the Yao family rent an island in the South China Sea? Asked Tan Xiu. I haven't found anything yet. Gu Xiaoshue shook her head. The Yao family is very low-key, especially that Yao Xinhua. He seems to have bribed some people. If my guess is correct, they will soon sign a contract with the government. Also, I've sent some people to the island to have a look. The island is very good and I think it's very suitable for us to plant medicinal herbs. Also, there's another small island 2 or 3 kilometers away from Clam Island. It's very suitable for us to rear fierce beasts. Tan Xiu's expression moved as he said in a deep voice, I'll immediately rush to Jingmen Island. We'll talk about it when I get there. Remember, if possible, make trouble for the Yao family and delay their signing of the contract with the government. Understood. Gu Xiaoxue replied. After hanging up the phone, Tan Xiu called his mother, Su Lingyun, telling her that he had something to do in Shanghai and would directly return today. He then contacted Yang Lu and drove directly back to Shanghai. Tan Xiu, I can't stand it anymore. I drove all night last night and slept for 4 or 5 hours during the day. Now you're pulling me back to Shanghai in a hurry. Aren't you trying to kill me? I don't care. You drive. Yang Lu complained after sitting in the car. I'll drive. You sleep. Tan Xiu nodded. Tan Xiu, why are we in such a hurry to go back? What exactly happened? Asked Yang Lu curiously. It's just a personal matter. After returning to Shanghai, I'm going to Jingmen Island to make some simple preparations, said Tan Xiu. Why? You want to go with me? Yang Lu rolled his eyes and snorted, I don't want to go with you. You're such a swindler. Originally, we agreed that we'd divide the loot after exploring the ancient tomb. But it turns out that I went with you for nothing. I was scared half to death and didn't get any benefits. A smile outlined on the corner of Tan Xiu's mouth. He glanced at the depressed Yang Lu and said, Who said you didn't get any benefits? Seeing such a magical scene with me should be the biggest benefit for you, right? I don't care. Yang Lu snorted. I saw you take away those 3 doors with my own eyes. Although I don't know what method you used to make them disappear into thin air, I bet they must be with you. Share the loot with me when we return to Shanghai. Tan Xiu couldn't help laughing and said, It's reasonable to say that I should share the loot with you, but I've changed my mind. I'm going to teach you some skills as a reward for your help. However, I have a condition. Yang Li's spirit shook and he hurriedly said, What condition? Tell me. Come with me to Jingmen Island, said Tan Xiu. For what? Asked Yang Lu. We're going to rent 2 islands in the South China Sea, said Tan Xiu. Yang Lu stared at him and incredulously asked, You want to rent islands? Do you have nothing better to do? I'm of great use to you. Tan Xiu said lightly. You tell me whether you want to go with me or not. I need to know what you want me to do, said Yang Lu. I can't explain it clearly now, said Tan Xiu. But as long as you come with me, maybe you'll be useful when the time comes. Yang Lu nodded and said, All right. I'll go with you. But first, you must keep your promise and teach me that powerful skill of yours. No problem. Tan Xiu nodded with a smile. Yang Lu looked out of the window and said with a smile, Brother Tan Xiu, I found that you're really interesting after getting along with you for a long time. At the very least, I know another identity of yours after coming to Star City with you. In fact, I should have thought of it earlier. What identity? Asked Tan Xiu casually. The young divine doctor of Star City Chinese Medical Hospital. Am I right? Said Yang Lu. Tan Xiu couldn't help laughing and said, Everyone on Earth already knows about it, yet you're so slow in realizing it. Do you want me to give you a thumbs up? Get lost. Yang Lu rolled his eyes and snorted. Double monthly votes. Last day. Begging for monthly votes. Chapter 530. Tan Xiu personally drove the car all the way at high speed and arrived at Shanghai at 2 a.m. in the morning. Since he was in a hurry, Tan Xiu returned to the Blue Star Villa complex and simply cleaned up. Then, he went to the study room and released the fierce beast from the array. Do you want to go out and play with me? asked Tan Xiao with a smile. However, he saw the fierce beast repeatedly nodding with an expectant look in its eyes. Tan Xiao then said with a smile, since you want to go out and play with me, then stay in the villa tonight. I'll take you to another place tomorrow. I won't let you stay in the array for a while. Afterward, he took a shower and changed his underwear before dialing Long Zhengyu's cell number. As he guessed, Long Zhengyu hadn't rested at this time. His tired voice came out of the phone. Tan Xiao, it's so late, yet you haven't rested yet? I have some urgent matters to attend to, so I've returned to Shanghai, said Tan Xiao. I'll leave the matters in Star City to you. Don't work too hard. If you're too tired, just hand over the work to someone else. Long Zhengyu said, rest assured. I can handle it. Anyways, are you in trouble over there? Do you need my help? No need. I can handle it myself, said Tan Xiao. Afterward, the two exchanged a few words and then hung up the phone. Early the next morning, Tan Xiao took Yang Lu to Jin Xinkui's residence. After handing over the architectural design he personally drew to Jin Xinkui, he hurriedly bid farewell and drove to Han Qingwu's residence. At the entrance of the complex, Han Qingwu was wearing a windbreaker and playing with her mobile phone. When the car stopped in front of her, she put away her mobile and looked at Tan Xiao, complaining, "It's only 6:30 a.m. now, Tan Xiao. It's only been half an hour since you called me. Even if we're going to play, you don't need to be so anxious, right? Let me clarify something. This trip to Jingmen Island is not for sightseeing. I have something important to deal with," said Tan Xiao seriously. "Also, you don't have to go." Han Qingwu gave Tang Xiao a flirtatious supercilious look and then took her suitcase to the rear of the car. After opening the trunk and putting it inside, she directly opened the door and sat in the back seat. Bam! After the door was closed, Han Qingwu glanced at Yang Lu in the front seat and said, "Let's go. But don't tell me that we're driving to Jingmen Island." Tang Xiao started the car and lightly smiled, "You're right. We're indeed going to Jingmen Island. It was a waste of time to book a ticket, wait at the airport, and then wait for the flight to take off. If the flight is delayed, I'll also delay." Yang nodded and Yang. Looking at Yang Lu, Han Qingwu turned her head and gently nodded to him. Then, she said, "Anyways, what are you going to Jingmen Island for, exactly?" "You won." "You?" Xiao said. Yang the Tian King, Xing Yang. "You only have one task this time, and that is to eat, drink, and have fun. Consider it a vacation. You don't need to worry about other things." Han Qingwu pursed her lips and turned her face to look out of the window. She admired Tan Xiao very much. At such a young age, he was able to do such a big business without batting an eyelid, accomplishing what countless people couldn't achieve in their lifetime. However, she felt very uncomfortable inside. She thought that she was the teacher and Tan Xiao was just a student. She was unexpectedly surpassed by Tan Xiao by tens of thousands of miles. The distance from Shanghai to Jingmen Island was more than 1,000 kilometers. Although Tan Xiao could drive there alone, Han Qingwu and Yang Lu helped him to share the burden. The three of them took turns driving and arrived at Jingmen Island at 4 p.m. After entering the downtown area, Tan Xiao directly rushed to the Everlasting Feast Hall's HQ according to the navigation. The scenery is really good. On the front seat, Han Qingwu couldn't help but sigh while looking at the scenery of the villa on both sides of the highway. Tan Xiao glanced at her and drove inside. At the gate, four experts of the Everlasting Feast Hall saw Tan Xiao and directly let him pass. Grand Master Gu Xiaoxue, who had long been waiting in the parking lot, saw Tan Xiao coming down from the driver's seat and hurriedly greeted him. A team of experts of the Everlasting Feast Hall passed by nearby. After seeing Tan Xiao, under the watchful eyes of Han Qingwu and Yang Lu, they strode to Tan Xiao's front, cupped their fists and greeted, "Boss." Tan Xiao slightly nodded and said, "Go do your business." "Understood." The team of Everlasting Feast Hall's experts respectfully replied and turned around to walk away. What's the current situation? Tan Xiu looked at Gu Xiaoxue and asked. I've sent some people to obstruct them. The information we got at noon shows that they have just returned from Clam Island and are now in Jingmen Island's Sandy Luo Hotel. Also, Yao Xinhua is negotiating with the senior leaders of Jingmen Island and should be waiting for the approval documents from the government. Tan Xiu slightly nodded and pointed to Han Qinggu, saying, she's Han Qinggu, a teacher at my school. Because she wanted to travel, she came with us. Send some people to settle her down and try your best to satisfy her request. I'll arrange it properly, Grand Master. Gu Xiaoxue nodded. As they talked, they came to the restaurant inside. As Han Qinggu was taken away, Tan Xiu and Yang Lu followed Gu Xiaoxue to a luxurious suite. Give me all the information you've investigated. Please wait a moment. Gu Xiaoxue made a phone call and someone quickly sent a document. It was the information the Everlasting Feast Hall's members had investigated. Tan Xiu carefully read it before he took out his mobile phone and dialed a number. Auntie, there's something I need your help with. What is it? Tang Min's laughter came from the phone. My men in Jingmen Island have inadvertently discovered that the Yao family seems to be making a move in the South China Sea, said Tan Xiu. Yao Xinhua, who fought with me in the south last time, is preparing to rent an island in the South China Sea. He seems to be communicating with the government now. Auntie, can you help me investigate the progress of the Yao family's island rental? Are you sure you're not mistaken, Tan Xiu? Asked Tang Min in a deep voice. The Yao family is really renting an island in the South China Sea. It's the information my men have found. It's absolutely not wrong, said Tang Xiu. It seems that the Yao family's plan is about to be carried out, murmured Tang Min. What plan? Tan Xiu stared blankly and asked with a confused expression. 2 of the top 4 security companies in the country are secretly controlled by the Yao family, said Tang Min. Our Tang family has just obtained this information not long ago. Even the people we bribed gave us the news that the Yao family is preparing to set up a new security company with fully militarized training of elite security guards. Rather than calling it a security company, it's better to call it the Yao family's most elite armed forces. Are you sure this information is reliable, Auntie? Tan Xiu squinted his eyes and asked. If that's the case, I think we can let them proceed smoothly. Once the Yao family organizes their most elite armed forces and expose them to our eyes, I can destroy this armed force and give the Yao family an extremely painful blow. It's not that simple, said Tang Min with a forced smile. Even if the Yao family wants to set up a new security company, it's to train elite armed forces. Their original armed forces won't be much. Furthermore, the Yao family has been getting restless recently. They have secretly contacted many families, saying that they want to help them train some elite talents. But how could those families possibly hand over their armed forces to the Yao family? However, those who want to cooperate with the Yao family will still send some of their people to tie themselves to the Yao family in advance. If something happens to the newly set up security company of the Yao family, I'm afraid many families will be furious. Tan Xiu was silent for a moment before he nodded and said, since it's not appropriate to completely destroy it, then we can only stop the Yao family's plan. It just so happens that I'm also going to rent 2 islands in the South China Sea. Since the Yao family didn't choose to deal with us, then we'll put aside our armed forces for now. We'll strive to make them lose everything and finally move the security company away. I'll immediately send someone to investigate it, said Tang Min. I'll inform you immediately once there's any news. All right. Tan Xiu replied and hung up the phone. At the side. A curious look flashed in Yang Li's eyes as he asked, Brother Tan Xiu, the Yao family you just mentioned, is it the Yao family from the imperial capital? Yes, it's the Yao family from the imperial capital. Tan Xiu nodded. A complicated expression flashed in Yang Li's eyes as he forced a smile and said, You asked me to come with you this time to deal with the Yao family? That's right. Tan Xiu said. Yang Lu was silent for a moment before he shook his head and said, I might be able to help you if it's something else, but I'm afraid I'm powerless in this matter. Ever since I came here with you, I've found a shocking situation. The everlasting feast hall's manor is filled with experts like clouds. I can't even raise my hand in front of many of them. I don't get it, Tan Xiu frowned and said. There's something that I'm afraid you don't know, Brother Tan Xiu, said Yang Lu with a forced and helpless smile. I'm a member of the thief sect of the occult doors. Although the thief sect has been torn apart, my eldest senior brother is a member of the Yao family and has quite a high position there. Although my eldest senior brother has been staying abroad all these years and rarely seen his figure, I dare say that he must be plotting something big. What's your eldest senior brother's name? Asked Tan Xiu inwardly. Yao Qinglong, answered Yang Lu. Tan Xiu directly called his father, Tang Guosheng, and got some news about Yao Qinglong from him. However, what made him vigilant was that although Yao Qinglong was a member of the Yao family and had some status in the family, the Tang family's investigation didn't mention anything about him being a disciple of the thief sect. There's a problem. With a gloomy expression, Tan Xiu hung up the phone and looked at Yang Lu, asking, Do you know which country your eldest senior brother is in? What kind of business is he doing abroad? I don't know. Yang Lu shook his head and forced a smile. Chapter 531. You don't know anything about your eldest senior brother? Tan Xiu stared at Yang Lu and asked. It's not that I don't know anything. Yang Lu shook his head and said, I only know that my eldest senior brother seems to be managing the Yao family's business abroad. However, I'm extremely skeptical about this since my eldest senior brother is very ambitious. He's absolutely not willing to give up the Yao family's patriarch position, nor is he willing to stay abroad to manage ordinary businesses. It seems that the Yao family is still hiding a lot of secrets. Tan Xiu slowly said. No matter how many secrets they are hiding, as long as they dare to be enemies with my Tang family, they'll be waiting to be uprooted. Yang Lu, answer me seriously. How is your relationship with your eldest senior brother? Yang Lu was silent for a while. Then, he bitterly shook his head and said, not good at all. In fact, we've already fallen out with each other. Even if we can't be considered enemies, we're definitely not friends. That's it. Help me and you'll be my friend in the future, Tan Xiu said. Also, don't forget what you promised me. If you want to get that opportunity, you must help me do something. Does this count as boarding a pirate ship? Yang Lu forced a smile. It's up to you. Tan Xiu calmly said. What do you want me to do? Asked Yang Lu. I'll send someone to investigate the document drafted between the Yao family and the government. You must steal it when necessary, Tan Xiu said. As long as the document is lost, it will affect their progress and bring them a lot of trouble. However, this is only a small part of my plan. We'll talk about the other plans later. What are you going to do next, Grand Master? Asked Gu Xiaoxue. We'll set off immediately to Clam Island to have a look, said Tan Xiu. If it's really suitable to carry out our plan, we must snatch it from the Yao family by any means. Yao Xinhua is a very capable guy, and he's bound to become the mainstay of the Yao family in the future. If possible, let him stay in the South China Sea forever. I'll arrange the ship now, Grand Master, said Gu Xiaoxue. Hearing this, Yang Lu hurriedly shouted, I'll go with you. Tan Xiu quietly watched the two of them leave. Then, he started to read the information investigated by the Everlasting Feast Hall. Countless thoughts churned inside his mind as he silently pondered on how to pay the smallest price to obtain the greatest benefits. In the corridor, Yang Lu looked at Gu Xiaoxue with shining eyes and asked curiously, Xiaoxue, why do you call Tan Xiu Grand Master? Is he really your master's master? Gu Xiaoxue nodded and smiled, that's right. Yang Lu touched his chin and curiously asked, logically speaking, your master should be quite old, right? He was already so old, yet he was still willing to acknowledge Tan Xiu as his master. This showed that Tan Xiu was indeed quite capable. Speaking of this. Yang Lu suddenly felt an invisible pair of hands strangling his throat. No matter how hard he tried, he couldn't say a word. However, this was not the most horrifying thing for him. What shocked him the most was that he found that he had lost control of his body. An invisible force even wrapped him up and quickly lifted him up and hung him upside down in the corridor. Ghost. Being hung upside down in the corridor, Yang Lu tried his best to raise his neck. He saw Gu Xiaoshue's hands making a few hand seals, and the surrounding environment suddenly changed. It was as though he was hung in an azure hell full of magma. Aside from the rivers of blood and mountains of corpses, there were also countless ferocious-looking ghosts with ferocious appearances. Gu Xiaoshue stood in front of Yang Lu with a curved smile on the corner of her mouth. She then turned around and walked toward the end of the corridor. Yang Li's eyes lit up ever since he saw her, making her feel very uncomfortable. If she hadn't been accompanying her Grand Master, Tan Xiu, she would have already made him suffer a bit. But now, he actually dared to slander her master's age. It was truly intolerable. At this moment, Yang Li's heart was filled with deep regret. If he knew that Gu Xiaoshue, who was as beautiful as a fairy, turned out to be such a cruel and merciless woman with terrifying abilities, even if he was beaten to death, he would not want to provoke her. He would hide far away. This hellish world made Yang Li's legs tremble. If he could, he really wanted to beg for mercy, hoping that Gu Xiaoshue would let him go back. Xiao! 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 3 ghostly figures appeared silently in the corridor. When the 3 big men who appeared saw Yang Li's appearance, they all showed a strange look. Don't let him down. An erratic voice sounded in the ears of the 3 big men. Suddenly, the 3 big men revealed a strange smile and retreated in the previous direction. In the luxury suite, Tan Xiu clearly heard Yang Li's cry for help. When he released his divine awareness and saw Yang Lu hanging upside down in the corridor, his face showed a dumbfounded expression. Although he didn't know how Yang Lu provoked Gu Xiaoshue, he didn't feel like putting Yang Lu down since it was done by Gu Xiaoshue. 10 minutes later, Han Qinggu arrived at the corridor under the guidance of a woman. When she saw Yang Lu hanging upside down in the corridor, her eyes revealed a look of disbelief. How did he? As she approached Yang Lu, Han Qinggu turned to look at the woman and asked with a trembling voice. I don't know, either, said the woman with a faint smile. But I'm afraid there's no one else in this restaurant except the boss and the little boss who can do this. Han Qinggu nodded and circled around Yang Lu a few times. Then, she raised her finger and stroked her chin. A blurred look flashed in her eyes as she murmured, it seems that I also have such an ability. It's really strange. There's nothing to tie him up, and there's nothing to restrain him. How can he hang upside down like this? What should I do? The woman was surprised and asked, Are you also a cultivator, Miss Han? Han Qinggu raised her brows and asked, A cultivator? This name sounds familiar. It's really strange. I seem to know a lot of things, yet I don't. What a headache. At this time, an erratic voice entered Han Qingwu's ears, since you can't remember it, then don't think about it deliberately. I'm sure you'll remember it sooner or later. Tan Xiu. Han Qingwu was startled and immediately walked a few steps forward. After pushing the door of the luxury suite, she saw Tan Xiu sitting in the hall and smoking quietly. Tan Xiu, you still don't want to tell me? Asked Han Qingwu. It's not time yet, so you don't need to rush to know. Tan Xiu shook his head. I'm sure you'll remember everything that happens sooner or later. Also, I told you that I came to Jingmen Island for an important matter, so I don't have time to accompany you on a sightseeing tour. You can also leave if you don't feel satisfied with the service provided by the Everlasting Feast Hall's staff. Han Qinggu rolled her eyes at him and snorted, who said the Everlasting Feast Hall's staff isn't considered enough? They arranged the best room for me and provided me with satisfactory service. I've decided that I'll stay here until you're done with your business. The everlasting feast hall isn't like other places. Tan Xiu nodded and said, there are a lot of rules to abide by here. If you want to stay here comfortably and have a vacation, it's best not to violate the rules here. Tell me, is there something else you want to talk to me about? I came here to ask you how long it will take you to finish your business, said Han Qinggu. I don't have a long vacation from school. I can't tell you how long it will take, said Tan Xiu. You can go back by yourself if I haven't finished my business by the time your vacation arrives. All right. Then pay attention to your safety. Han Qinggu hesitated for a moment before she gently nodded. I'm not a child anymore. I know how to take care of myself. Tan Xiu let out a trace of a smile. Are you hungry? I've already ordered someone to prepare a meal and it'll be sent over later. I happen to be hungry, said Han Qinggu with a smile. As the fragrant meal was sent over, Tan Xiu broke the illusion array for Yang Lu. He carried the pale-faced Yang Lu into the hall and threw him on the sofa, saying, whatever you just encountered has nothing to do with me. She wouldn't have taught you a lesson if you didn't say anything that made her unhappy. Take a rest and immediately come here to eat. We still have important things to do after dinner. Yang Lu struggled to get up from the sofa. Fear still flashed in his eyes as he said with a trembling voice, Brother Tan Xiu, why do you have so many monsters? That Gu Xiaoxua looks like a fairy, but she's even more terrifying than a witch. Tan Xiu chuckled and said, I seem to have heard someone shout ghosts just now. That person shouldn't be you, right? You're a member of the occult doors. If a member of the occult doors is afraid of ghosts, then it'll be a big joke. Cough, cough, Yang Lu coughed dryly, and his handsome face instantly turned red. Han Qinggu stared with wide eyes and said in astonishment, I never thought that the talkative Mr. Yang Lu would actually have such a blushing moment. It's really inconceivable. I guess he should be the one who just shouted that word. Otherwise, he wouldn't be embarrassed and blushing. You guys, Yang Lu flew into a rage out of shame. He fiercely glared at Tan Xiu and Han Qinggu as he staggered and walked toward the door. I'm full. I'll wait for you outside. Ha ha ha, Han Qinggu burst into laughter. Just after dinner, Gu Xiaoxua hurried back with an invitation in her hand. She came to Tan Xiu and said, Grand Master, this is an invitation from the Ouyang family. They're holding a charity banquet at the Sheraton Hotel tonight. They hope that our everlasting feast hall's people can attend. Also, I got the news that Yao Xinhua, who's in Jingmen Island, has also received this invitation. Yao Xinhua. A cold light flashed in Tan Xiu's eyes as he nodded and said, since the Yao family's people want to go, then I'll go there myself. I want to see that brat in advance so that he knows who will send him to hell in the future. Chapter 532. Jingmen Island's Sheraton Hotel was located in the downtown area where every inch of land was worth its weight in gold. It occupied a large area and the entire hotel building was particularly stylish. Every year, tourists from all over the country would choose this hotel as their first choice, so the price was naturally very high. On the surface, the Ouyang family was the most powerful family in Jingmen Island. Whether it was their business network or social circle, no other family could compare with them. Therefore, nearly all the big shots in Jingmen Island were invited to the charity party hosted by the Ouyang family. Even the dignitaries from outside were lucky enough to receive an invitation. At around 5:00 in the evening, luxury cars drove into the Sheraton Hotel. As the cars stopped at the entrance of the hotel building, well-dressed dignitaries walked into the hotel lobby under Ouyang Lei's warm greeting. As it was approaching 6 p.m., Ouyang Lei raised his wrist and looked at the time on his watch. He then turned to look at his subordinate and asked, how many people have yet to arrive according to the invitation we sent out? More than a dozen. The refined middle-aged man replied in a low voice. Ouyang Lei squinted his eyes. When he saw another expensive luxury car coming and stopping in front of him, he quickly glanced at it and found that it was also an acquaintance, so he quickly greeted him. After greeting him with a smile and entering the hotel lobby, an ordinary off-road vehicle stopped next to him. Huh? Ouyang Lei's expression moved. He immediately looked pleasantly surprised when he saw Gu Xiaoxue coming out of the car. However, before he could step in front of Gu Xiaoxue, Tan Xiu's figure appeared on the other side of the car's door. Oh, why are you here, brother-in-law? Ouyang Lei directly gave up on greeting Gu Xiaoxue and strode toward Tan Xiu. Tan Xiu rolled his eyes. He looked at the pleasantly surprised Ouyang Lei and snappily said, "Can't you change the way you address me? Even if you don't care about me, shouldn't you think about your younger sister? She hasn't found a husband yet, so calling me like that will damage her reputation." Ouyang Lei stared blankly for a moment. He immediately patted his forehead and smilingly said, "Yeah, you're right. My younger sister hasn't married yet, so you can't be considered as my brother-in-law. Then, a future brother-in-law should be correct, right?" Ha ha ha. Tan Xiu glanced at Yang Lu, who got out of the driver's seat, and said, "Remember this guy's appearance. I'll give you one night. Tomorrow, I'll make him run to me and beg me." Yang Lu looked at Ouyang Lei with a strange expression. He then nodded with a smile and said, "No problem. I guarantee that I'll complete the task." "What do you mean?" Ouyang Lei was confused. "And this is?" Tan Xiu faintly smiled and said, "I won't introduce you to each other for the time being. You'll get to know him again tomorrow. Besides, I'm here to attend the charity gala today. As the host, shouldn't you invite me in warmly?" Ouyang Lei laughed heartily and said, "You don't need to invite me. You don't need to pretend to be polite at all. This is a charity gala hosted by our family. You can enter however you want." Calculating the time, almost all the people who were supposed to come had arrived. I didn't need to waste my time outside. Come on, let's go in together. After entering the hotel lobby, everyone took the elevator to the 26th floor. As they were about to enter the banquet hall, Tan Xiu casually asked, "I heard that you also invited the Yao family. Have they come?" Ouyang Lei stared blankly for a moment before he suddenly realized something and quickly said, "Don't mess around today, my future brother-in-law. I know that your Tang family and the Yao family have some friction, but all the bigwigs in Jingmen Island have come today. It will be hard for our Ouyang family to deal with if something happens." "I won't attack unless I'm attacked," Tan Xiu said with a faint smile. Ouyang Lei nodded without a word and said, "Yao Xinhua has arrived, along with several people he brought. They should be inside now." Tan Xiu didn't speak again. After entering the banquet hall with Ouyang Lei, he found that there were hundreds of people inside. Fortunately, the banquet hall was very large and could accommodate thousands of people, so it didn't seem crowded. Under the soft illumination of the crystal lamps, tables of wine and delicacies could be seen everywhere. Groups of 3 to 5 successful people gathered together and chatted about various topics. "Ouyang Lei, what's your Ouyang family's purpose in making such a big scene today?" "To put it bluntly, it's a charity donation," said Ouyang Lei with a smile. Almost every year, our Ouyang family would organize such an event. However, it seems to have changed its flavor along with the charity banquet. It has become a grand event for those business elites, dignitaries, and dignitaries to communicate in private. Nowadays, every successful person in Jingmen Island will be proud to receive an invitation from my Ouyang family. Tan Xiu suddenly understood. He recalled that the Ouyang family could become the #1 family in Jingmen Island. He believed that they had many means to accumulate connections, and tonight's charity banquet was probably just one of them. "All right. You're the host, so you don't have to accompany me here. We'll have plenty of time to communicate later," said Tan Xiu. Ouyang Lei nodded with a smile. As the future successor of the Ouyang family, he indeed had to be busy with social engagements. If he were to accompany Tan Xiu here, it would be somewhat inexcusable to the other guests. Following his departure, Gu Xiaoxue, who had been following beside Tan Xiu, attracted a lot of attention. She leaned toward Tan Xiu and whispered, "Grand Master, at 2 o'clock, there's a young man in a white suit with slick back hair. He's the outstanding talent of the Yao family's new generation. Yao Xinhua. Tan Xiu looked over and saw the handsome and tall Yao Xinhua, who was holding a glass of red wine and chatting with several successful middle-aged men. As if sensing that someone was looking at him, Yao Xinhua glanced around a few times before his eyes finally met with Tan Xiu's. Tan Xiu let out a faint smile and turned toward the rest area in the corner. Today was the first time he saw Yao Xinhua. He had a good head and a good brain. Furthermore, Tan Xiu could see that Yao Xinhua's skill should be good as well. Although this kind of opponent was extremely terrifying to many people, it was nothing to him. Perhaps only the arrival of the Yao family's old patriarch could attract Tan Xiu's attention. At 2:00. After seeing Tan Xiu, Yao Xinhua's eyes turned a lot more solemn. A chilling light burst out from his eyes as a dense killing intent gushed out from his heart. When he first fought with the Tang family in the south, the Tang family was utterly defeated. He was in high spirits and was ready to make persistent efforts to make the Tang family suffer heavy losses and completely lose the two provinces in the south. But then, the battle situation suddenly changed. The Tang family's series of means caught him off guard. The result was very miserable. His Yao family and his friendly family suffered heavy losses, and he was forced to retreat again and again. Finally, all the achievements he had achieved were in vain, and he was forced to return to the imperial capital with his tail between his legs. At that time, he was very aggrieved. Because he didn't even know who the real enemy was. It was not until later, through various channels of investigation, that he found out that it was the Tang family's long-lost descendant named Tan Xiu who took over the battle in the south and beat him so miserably. Therefore, he also regarded Tan Xiu as a lifelong enemy. Even now, he was always ready and looking forward to playing with Tan Xiu in the future to wash away the humiliation he had suffered. However, when he suddenly saw Tan Xiu's figure, even though he was always ready, his heart still tightened. Why is he here? Yao Xinhua's mind was calm and he was not affected by the killing intent. Countless thoughts churned in his mind as he silently thought about the purpose of Tan Xiu's visit. It stood to reason that Tan Xiu should be in Shanghai now, being a good student at Shanghai University. Could it be, because of the Yao family's plan to rent an island in the South China Sea? As Yao Xinhua thought of this issue, his heartstrings suddenly tightened and a vigilant look appeared in his eyes. It must be noted that the Yao family's plan this time was very big and very important. If it could be completed, the Yao family would continue to grow in the next few years, and their armed forces would advance by leaps and bounds. As long as the plan went smoothly, the Yao family would be able to stand proudly in the entire imperial capital and become the most powerful family in a few years. Excuse me. Yao Xinhua maintained a smile on his face as he spoke to the people around him. Then, he walked to the side with the red wine. After coming to the corner, he took out his mobile and dialed a cell number. "Dad, it's me," Yao Xinhua said in a low voice. "What's the matter?" A dignified voice came from the phone. "Dad, I met Tan Xiu in Jingmen Island in the charity party organized by the Ouyang family," said Yao Xinhua. "I suspect that his sudden appearance in Jingmen Island is inseparable from the upcoming plan of our Yao family." "Tan Xiu? Which Tan Xiu?" asked Yao Qingqing doubtfully. "The Tang family, Tan Xiu," said Yao Xinhua. Yao Qingqing was silent for a moment. Suddenly, he seemed to recall something and asked in a deep voice, "Is it Tan Xiu who once fought with you in the two southern provinces? The little fella of the Tang family who was lost for 20 years? "That's right," said Yao Xinhua. Yao Qingqing was silent for a moment before he coldly said, "Our Yao family's plan must not go wrong. Although you're just a smokescreen in the open, it's best to avoid trouble. Since the Tang family's people have appeared in Jingmen Island, it means that the Tang family has already been aware of the situation. So, find an opportunity to meet this Tan Xiu. If possible, try to make him stay in Jingmen Island forever." Yao Xinhua's expression moved as he nodded and said, "I understand, Dad. I'll do it quietly so that he won't be able to return alive." Don't take it lightly, said Yao Qingqing. You're in the open and he's in the dark, so your own safety is the first priority. If it doesn't work out, take your people back. I believe your second uncle will do it secretly. Don't worry. I know what I'm doing, said Yao Xinhua. I won't act rashly if I'm not 100% sure. I'll immediately retreat if there's even the slightest sign of trouble. Chapter 533. Yao Xinhua hung up the phone and waved to a nearby middle-aged man. After the middle-aged man came to his side, he whispered, "Move the first and second teams here and hide in the vicinity of the Sheraton Hotel. Also, tell the gunman to go to the opposite building and wait for my order." Understood. The middle-aged man replied and left with a cautious expression. A cold light flashed in Yao Xinhua's eyes as he took out a cigarette from his pocket. But after recalling the current situation, he stuffed the cigarette back into his pocket. However, his eyes passed through the gaps in the crowd and looked at Tan Xiu, who was sitting in a remote corner. At this moment, Tan Xiu crossed his legs and quietly sat on the sofa in the corner of the banquet hall. His eyes wandered back and forth between the smiling guests. He was very disgusted with this kind of banquet. After all, it was too impure and boring to hold it under the banner of charity with ulterior motives. However, he also understood these people. After all, they were all mortals, and it was common knowledge among cultivators that mortals did their own things. If they wanted to make a living in society, they had to deal with thousands of connections. They had to seize every opportunity to make friends with people who could bring them benefits. Only then would they be able to open up a better career and have more wealth in the future. What? You don't like it? A smile outlined on the corner of Tan Xiu's mouth as he looked at Gu Xiaoxue, who was sitting in front of him. I really don't like it. Gu Xiaoxue gently nodded and frowned. You're the one who wanted to come with me. Don't force yourself if you really don't like it. Tan Xiu smiled. Let's go back. Also, tell someone to prepare the boat. We'll set sail after the charity party is over. Gu Xiaoxue hesitated for a moment before she silently got up and said, Then I'll wait for you on the boat. Yang Lu, who was sitting next to Tan Xiu, looked at Gu Xiaoxue's back as she left. His tense expression finally relaxed a lot. The scene of him being hung in the corridor had filled him with fear toward Gu Xiaoxue, so he felt uncomfortable even if Gu Xiaoxue was next to him. Huff, Yang Lu secretly breathed a sigh of relief and forced a smile. Brother Tan Xiu, I'm really curious. How come you have such a grand disciple? Tan Xiu smiled faintly and said, Isn't it good? Xiaoxue is a well-behaved child. Not bad. Obedient? Yang Lu almost spat out a mouthful of blood, secretly cursing in his heart, She is good to you, respectful, like she is treating her own ancestor, but to me, I know what you're thinking. As long as you don't take the initiative to provoke her, she won't mess with you, said Tan Xiu with a smile. I know you like women, but don't provoke women you don't know, or you'll get into big trouble in the future. Yang Lu deeply agreed and said, You're right, every word is true. In the future, I must be vigilant when dealing with women. Haven't you heard of the saying, a woman's heart is the most poisonous of all? Tan Xiu couldn't help laughing and said, Don't be so extreme. Forget it, let's not talk about these boring things. I'll give you one night to do what you need to do. I hope that Ouyang Lei will be restless before we return from Clam Island. Yang Lu crooked his finger and smilingly said, Brother Tan Xiu, as the saying goes, even blood brothers should settle accounts clearly. How are you going to thank me if I help you tonight? I originally intended to give you a small opportunity, said Tan Xiu with a smile. If I'm satisfied with what you do, I'll give you a big one. 10 times. As long as you do well, your strength will increase by at least 10 times in the future. Deal. Yang Lu excitedly got up and spoke again, a gentleman keeps his word. Then I'm going to investigate Ouyang Lei's background now. Just wait for my good news. Go. Tan Xiu said with a smile. Stay in the everlasting feast hall before I come back from the sea. Also, help me investigate the Yao family here while you're at it. All right. Yang Lu replied and quickly left the banquet hall. The charity gala began at 6:00. As the host, Ouyang Lei gave a speech with great emotion. Then, he invited his father, Ouyang Wenjin, to the stage and gave a speech. It was Tan Xiu's first time seeing Ouyang Wenjin. He was a very dignified and imposing man with every gesture exuding the demeanor of a big shot. Tan Xiu recalled Ouyang Lulu's request to let him follow her to the Ouyang family as a guest. Although he had promised it, he had never fulfilled it. In fact, it was not that he wanted to break his promise, but he didn't want to complicate his relationship with Ouyang Lulu. The charity gala progressed quickly, and the items auctioned in the following charity auction were not expensive. None of them caught Tan Xiu's eyes. Therefore, he didn't spend money to buy anything and just regarded himself as a bystander. He quietly stayed in the most inconspicuous corner and observed Yao Xinhua's actions from time to time. After the charity auction ended, some people bought things they liked, while some spent money to show goodwill to the Ouyang family. In short, the charity auction was a success. You're Tan Xiu, right? At the beginning of the banquet, Yao Xinhua finally appeared in front of Tan Xiu with a glass of red wine in his hand. Tan Xiu was still sitting on the sofa with his legs crossed. He looked up and casually glanced at Yao Xinhua. A faint smile appeared on the corner of his mouth as he said, "It turns out to be a loser. I really didn't expect that you would dare to appear in front of me. Aren't you afraid that I'll personally cut off your head and make it into a chamber pot for me?" Yao Xinhua sneered. He turned around and sat on the sofa opposite Tan Xiu. He gently sipped the red wine and then lightly said, "There's an old saying that victory and defeat are common in a war. Who can laugh at the end is really an unpredictable chess game. I'm looking forward to what kind of performance you'll have in the future. I'll have a lot of good performances, but I'm afraid only a few of them will qualify you to participate in." Tan Xiu said with a smile. "You may not like to hear it, but perhaps only your family's patriarch can make me look at the entire Yao family. As for the others..." Hee. Yao Xinhua gave a thumbs up. He didn't get angry out of shame because of the contempt in Tan Xiu's words. On the contrary, a bright smile appeared on his handsome face. "I know. I've been looking forward to the Tang family ever since I came back from abroad. I'm looking forward to them giving me some pressure and motivation. But your Tang family's people are too weak, so weak that I don't even have the mood to play. Fortunately, you appeared. I'm glad that the Tang family was able to find you. Otherwise, even if the Tang family were to be destroyed in the future, I would still feel bored." Tan Xiu couldn't help laughing and said, "That's great. You're full of arrogance, and your blood is full of self-confidence. It's a pity that I've made such an outstanding opponent fear me so early on. If I had known it earlier, I wouldn't have used such a rough method to deal with you in Fukang. Maybe I could have played better and obtained more gains if I was gentle." Tan Xiu, a man who can't let go of the past is not a real man. Yao Xinhua sneered. "How about we make a bet if you want?" "Say it." Tan Xiu shrugged his shoulders. "How do you want to play?" Yao Xinhua said, "Let's bet. Who will leave the hotel standing tonight? Who will leave the hotel lying down? Do you dare to bet with me?" "What's the bet?" Tan Xiu said with a smile. "I'll give you the choice." Yao Xinhua spread his hands. "All right." Tan Xiu said with a light smile. "I'll be a bit vulgar today. The bet is money. I've been very poor recently, so poor that I can't even eat in the school cafeteria. How about 1 billion renminbi? That's a small bet." Yao Xinhua sneered. "If you say 1 billion, then 1 billion. I don't like to always make myself look rich and overbearing." The two men talked, their words full of the smell of gunpowder. Now, they were carrying out psychological tactics, wanting to use words to strike the other's psyche. Unfortunately, Ling Ren was a person with a tenacious mind, so verbal attacks would not have much of an effect on them. Give me your cell number. Tan Xiu took out his mobile phone and crooked his finger. Do you need to ask me personally if you want to know my cell number? Yao Xinhua said with a faint smile. Wouldn't the Tang family's people be eager to put my number in front of you? I don't like troublesome things, Tan Xiu said. You're the same as me. I'm also a person who hates troublesome things. Yao Xinhua nodded. Having said that, he gave his cell number to Tan Xiu. Tan Xiu quickly wrote a short message and sent his name and a bank account number to Yao Xinhua. Then, he stood up and smilingly said, I've sent my bank account number to your mobile phone. Remember to transfer the money to my account early tomorrow. You're that confident? Yao Xinhua sneered. Tan Xiu maintained his smile as he nodded and said, I'm very confident. You'll know it later. The next moment, Tan Xiu's figure instantly appeared in front of Yao Xinhua. His speed was so fast that even though Yao Xinhua was not an ordinary person, he still couldn't detect Tan Xiu's movement. His body quickly turned numb, followed by blackness before he lost consciousness. Tan Xiu's figure flickered and silently disappeared from the banquet hall without anyone noticing. His purpose of coming here today had been achieved, so he didn't bother to stay here and waste time. He didn't kill Yao Xinhua because he was still thinking about the 1 billion gambling money. He was more concerned about eradicating some of the Yao family's forces by abusing Yao Xinhua later. Huh! The moment he stepped out of the hotel's entrance, a cold light burst out from Tan Xiu's eyes. He could keenly sense that there seemed to be countless pairs of eyes staring at him from all around. A faint sense of crisis even appeared in his heart, causing him to instantly release his spiritual sense, 15 people, all armed with firearms. However, it's not them who gave me a sense of threat, but someone else. It should be someone hiding in the dark. Only someone hiding in the dark can give me such a feeling. Chapter 534. Had it been in the past, Tan Xiu's first reaction would have been to dodge and find a solid bunker. But now, he didn't care about the sniper bullets at all. Although he felt threatened, he could still face it calmly. Even if the other party fired, he was 100% confident that he could dodge it. Even if he had to resist, he believed that the bullets couldn't penetrate his skin and cause him any harm. Such confidence, it was brought about by the surge in his cultivation. After experiencing the inheritance in the ancient tomb, his strength had soared by more than 100 times. Even the current Xiao Mingjin and Miao Wentong would be surpassed by him. Those who point their muzzles at me must die. Tang Xiu's eyes were as sharp as an eagle's as he looked at the opposite building. His spiritual sense was like a tidal wave as it spread to the opposite building. In a flash, he found a window that was more than 10 stories high. 2 silver needles silently appeared in his hands. With a flick of his fingers, the 2 silver needles pierced through the air and accurately pierced between the eyebrows of 2 snipers who were 1 to 200 meters away from him. He snorted coldly. He didn't even bother to check whether the 2 men were dead or not. He casually tidied up his collar, retracted his spiritual sense, and then walked toward the car. Take me to the dock. After sitting in the car, Tan Xiu calmly said. Pearl Port, Jingmen Island's super-large dock. Aside from luxury liners and yachts, there were also heavy cargo ships docked here. The liner prepared by the Everlasting Feast Hall was docked here. Grand Master. After Gu Xiaoxue received the news of Tan Xiu's arrival, she immediately came out from the luxury liner to greet him. The liner was tens of meters long. Although it was not a super-large liner, it could accommodate 100 or 200 people at the same time. At the moment, there were no attendants on board, nor was there anyone else other than the Everlasting Feast Hall. Dozens of experts of the Everlasting Feast Hall could easily maneuver the luxury liner. Including the busy chef in the kitchen, all of them were experts of the Everlasting Feast Hall. Is everything ready? Asked Tan Xiu calmly after boarding the luxury liner. Everything is ready. We can set sail at any time. Gu Xiaoxue nodded. If the sea conditions are good, it will only take 11 hours to reach Clam Island from here. In other words, we'll be able to get there tomorrow morning. Let's set sail. Tan Xiu nodded. Sheraton Hotel Banquet Hall. As the charity gala ended, the guests left one after another. Several experts of the Yao family with decent strength were pacing back and forth in the corner of the resting area with puzzled looks in their eyes. Their eyes lingered on the seemingly sleeping Yao Xinhua, but no one dared to step forward to wake him up. What happened? Ouyang Lei sent off groups of guests and went to the lounge in the corner, a little tipsy. Seeing the appearance of the Yao family and Yao Xinhua, a surprised look appeared on his face. An expert of the Yao family shook his head and said, "Our young master seems to be asleep." Ouyang Lei didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Your young master is really a weirdo to be able to fall asleep on such an occasion. However, the charity gala is over. Wake him up. If you're really too sleepy, you can get a room in a hotel. What's the point of sleeping here? Several experts of the Yao family looked embarrassed. One of them nodded slightly and walked to Yao Xinhua's side, saying, "Young master, we should leave." There was no movement. Yao Xinhua still maintained his sleeping appearance. He didn't even move an inch. The Yao family's expert slightly frowned and touched Yao Xinhua with his hand. After finding that he still had no reaction, his complexion slightly changed. He increased the strength of his hand and shook Yao Xinhua, but the result was the same. Not good. Something happened. Immediately. Several experts of the Yao family gathered around with horrified expressions on their faces. They were the Yao family's experts responsible for Yao Xinhua's safety. If something happened to Yao Xinhua, they would be severely punished. Ouyang Lei walked to Ouyang Lei's side. He frowned and shook Yao Xinhua a few times. After finding that he still had no reaction, he immediately said, "He doesn't seem to be drunk. On the contrary, he looks like, call 120 immediately and let the hospital rescue personnel come here." The Yao family's expert who first found Yao Xinhua's condition reached out and directly picked him up. He then said in a deep voice, "No need to call 120. Send the young master to the hospital immediately. Let's go." "I'll go with you," said Ouyang Lei quickly. The Yao family's young master, Yao Xinhua, had an accident at the charity gala. Ouyang Lei was well aware that this matter was inextricably related to the Ouyang family. Furthermore, he also wanted to know what was going on with Yao Xinhua, so he strode to catch up. An hour later. Jingmen Island's First People's Hospital. The president of the hospital, Zhuang Yuanxiu, was wearing a white coat. Her brows were tightly knitted as she looked at Ouyang Lei's physical examination report. "President Zhuang, what's the situation with our young master?" An expert of the Yao family hurriedly asked. Zhuang Yuanxiu shook his head and forced a smile. "The examination shows that he's very healthy. As for why he's unconscious, we can't find any reason. How about we carry out a comprehensive examination on him, which will take a lot of time. I'm afraid the results will come out tomorrow morning." The Yao family's expert hurriedly asked, "President Zhuang, will our young master's life be in danger?" "It's hard to say." Zhuang Yuanxiu shook his head. Through the routine examination, not only is his life not in danger, but his body is also very healthy. There's no injury on his body. However, his coma is very unreasonable. I can't tell the specific situation at present. We need to carry out a comprehensive examination before we can draw a conclusion." The Yao family's expert was silent for a moment. Then, he nodded and said, "Then I'll have to trouble President Zhuang. I'll immediately report the young master's condition back to the family. I hope the results from your hospital can come out quickly." "Don't worry." Zhuang Yuanxiu replied and turned to look at Ouyang Lei. "President Zhuang, if there's anything you need our Ouyang family to do, just say it," said Ouyang Lei. "Nothing for the time being." Zhuang Yuanxiu shook his head. "Take a rest first. Our hospital will take care of the patient." I've told the person in charge of the inpatient department to send someone to stay here 24 hours to take care of him. Alright, then I'll have to trouble you. Ouyang Lei said a few polite words to the Yao family's experts before he bid farewell and left. Since the hospital couldn't find out Yao Xinhua's condition, it was meaningless for him to stay here. Furthermore, he didn't like Yao Xinhua, not only because of his arrogant character, but also because he was the sworn enemy of his future brother-in-law. Late at night. In a luxurious villa complex in Jingmen Island. A Mercedes-Benz slowly drove in. When it entered the open electric gate of the villa's courtyard, the driver opened the back seat's door and respectfully looked at Ouyang Lei coming out from the inside. At this time, Ouyang Lei was slightly drunk, but the cool breeze made him more spirited. Strange, why is the light on? Ouyang Lei muttered to himself. He then ordered the driver to leave and strode into the villa's hall. Although he was the eldest young master of the Ouyang clan, and the future successor, he was very low-key. Even his secret residence was not known by many. Auntie Chang. Ouyang Lei looked around and found that the housekeeper, Auntie Chang, who usually waited for him in the hall, was not in the living room today, which made the strange feeling in his heart more intense. Being cautious by nature, he went to the left corridor and knocked on the door of Auntie Chang's room. After finding no movement inside, he immediately opened the door and found that the light inside was on, but no one was there. Where is she? Ouyang Lei frowned and a bad premonition grew inside his heart. When he came back to the door of the next room, he suddenly found that Auntie Chang was sleeping soundly on the guest bed. Suddenly, his slightly worried heart relaxed. He smiled and shook his head, then turned around and left. When he came to the second floor, he habitually opened the door of the study room. When he saw the environment inside, his pupils rapidly shrank and his eyes burst with a horrified look. It was a messy scene with things lying all over the place. Many of the things he particularly treasured, such as the expensive 4 treasures of the study, were carelessly thrown on the ground, and ink was spilled on the floor. The door of the bookcase in the study room was open, and the books on it were very messy. Many of them were also thrown on the ground. I've been robbed. Ouyang Lei rushed to the cloakroom. When he saw that the cloakroom was also turned upside down, he instantly sprinted to the innermost wardrobe. Damn! The clothes in the wardrobe were carelessly thrown all over the floor. On the innermost side of the wardrobe, the hidden safe had been pried open, and all the extremely valuable things inside had disappeared. Although he was distressed to lose those gold bricks, jewelry, and antiques, it was still within his acceptable range. But, this safe contained the extremely important account book of the Ouyang family. The content of the account book even recorded some of the Ouyang family's shady business. Something big has happened. Ouyang Lei's lips trembled, and the drunkenness completely disappeared. After a few heavy breaths, he quickly took out his mobile phone and dialed a mobile phone number. Dad, something happened. The place where I live was robbed. Not only all the valuable things were stolen, but even the account book that recorded the basic records of our family's very important business was also stolen by the thief. Once the accounts recorded in the account book are exposed, our Ouyang family will be in big trouble, big trouble. Bastard! Ouyang Wenjin's angry curse came from the phone. Half an hour later, Ouyang Wenjin arrived with dozens of Ouyang family's experts. When he saw his son, Ouyang Lei, whose face was pale and eyes were flickering with fear, he shouted, "Tell me everything and don't leave out even half a word. Also, tell me, why did you put so many important accounts of the family in such a poor security place?" Chapter 535. With a bitter expression, Ouyang Lei reported what he found after coming back tonight. Then, he explained, those account books have actually been here for several years. I thought this was the safest and most hidden place. Who would have thought? Who would have thought? Ouyang Wenjin angrily shouted. Who would have thought that you would be targeted by a thief? I thought you were very cautious and prudent, but I didn't expect that you would actually piss me off. If those account books are not found or exposed, our Ouyang family will suffer huge losses. It's very likely that we will be attacked by those enemies who have been coveting us. What should we do next, Dad? Asked Ouyang Lei in panic. Ouyang Wenjin took a deep breath to calm his anger and said, what else can we do? Even if we have to turn the entire Jingmen Island upside down, we must find the thief who stole our things. The most important thing is to find the lost account books. Also, notify the people in charge of those shady businesses to immediately suspend all their business, destroy all the shady things, and then hide for me. Nodding repeatedly, Ouyang Lei thought for a while and then asked, should I notify Lulu to also suspend the Paradise Club's business? Ouyang Wenjin stared blankly and asked in a deep voice, does Lulu's Paradise Club also exist in those account books? No, but I'm afraid. Ouyang Lei shook his head. Notify her. Ouyang Wenjin nodded. Although the Paradise Club was created by Lulu, it's also our Ouyang family's business. Now that the account books are lost, I'm afraid that any shady business of our Ouyang family will become their target in case someone tries to make a fuss about it. Ouyang Lei nodded and forced a smile, I got it. Tan Xiu came to the charity banquet uninvited. After the banquet, the Yao family's first young master, Yao Xinhua, mysteriously fell into a coma, and now I'm here, something's wrong. What's wrong? Asked Ouyang Wenjin with a frown. A look of recollection flashed in Ouyang Lei's eyes. As if recalling something, he immediately took out his mobile and dialed Tan Xiu's number. What made him extremely depressed was that the reply he received was that the phone had been turned off. Dad, I'm going to the Everlasting Feast Hall, said Ouyang Lei in a deep voice. Why are we going to the Everlasting Feast Hall? Asked Ouyang Wenjin. I suspect that the Everlasting Feast Hall has something to do with the burglary here tonight, said Ouyang Lei. To be precise, it has something to do with Tan Xiu. How so? Ouyang Wenjin asked. I think the bizarre events that happened today are all related to Tan Xiu, said Ouyang Lei. He suddenly came to the charity banquet. Originally, I planned to let him meet you after the banquet ended, but I found out that he left early. You should know about the relationship between the Yao family and the Tang family. The place where Yao Xinhua fainted was in the corner of the resting area where Tan Xiu had stayed before. Also, I clearly remember that because I kept calling Tang Xiu my future brother-in-law, he told a young man next to him to remember my appearance and gave him a night's time to do something for me. He also told me to beg him tomorrow morning. That's right, Tang Xiu. Ouyang Wenjin asked strangely, you've been calling Tan Xiu your future brother-in-law? Yes, that's what I call him, said Ouyang Lei awkwardly. That girl, Lulu, is determined to marry Tan Xiu. She even abandoned the Paradise Club and took out all her money to open a villa in Shanghai. She has a tacit understanding of her purpose. Therefore, I think that Tan Xiu is not an outsider and is very affectionate with him. Ouyang Wenjin was at a loss whether he had to cry or laugh. That's really absurd. I haven't even seen my Ouyang family's future son-in-law. Is this something I should do? It's your younger sister's freedom to like him, but you can't force him to marry only Lulu. If what you said is true, maybe Tan Xiu is playing a joke on us. How about this, I'll personally go to the Everlasting Feast Hall with you. After we see Tan Xiu, we'll know whether he's the one who did it or not. Dad, isn't it a bit unreasonable for a future father-in-law to see his future son-in-law? Ouyang Lei quickly said. I'll go there myself and directly drag him here. You can ask whatever you want when the time comes. Is this the time to joke? Ouyang Wenjin snapped. Don't tell me you don't know how important those account books are to our Ouyang family. Cut the crap and come with me. At 1 a.m. more than a dozen cars were stopped outside the Everlasting Feast Hall's outermost gate. Four stalwart men coldly looked at Ouyang Lei, who came out of the car and said in a deep voice, Mr. Ouyang, our Everlasting Feast Hall doesn't receive guests at this time. Please come again tomorrow morning if you want to spend some money. I'm not here to spend money, but to see Tan Xiu, said Ouyang Lei. The stalwart man frowned and asked, have you made an appointment with our boss before? No. Ouyang Lei shook his head and said, but I have a very important matter that I must see him immediately. The stalwart man shook his head and said, I'm sorry. I can't let you in if you haven't made an appointment with our boss in advance. Please come again tomorrow morning if you have something to do. If Tan Xiu hadn't turned off his cell phone, do you think I would have come here personally? Ouyang Lei angrily said. Cut the crap and contact him immediately. Tell him that I have an important matter to discuss with him and that he must see me. The stalwart man shook his head and said, I also want to inform boss, but he hasn't come back yet, so I can't help you. You said that Tan Xiu hasn't come back yet? Asked Ouyang Lei. Yes. The stalwart man nodded. Since Tan Xiu hasn't come back, then Gu Xiaoxue should be back, right? Asked Ouyang Lei. Our little boss hasn't come back yet, either, said the stalwart man. I know you're lying to me, aren't you? Ouyang Lei angrily shouted. Let me tell you something. Tan Xiu is my future brother-in-law, and he will be a family with our Ouyang family in the future. I have an important matter to discuss with him, but if you refuse, Tan Xiu will definitely punish you severely later. Hurry up and let us in. The stalwart man naturally knew that Ouyang Lei was Ouyang Lulu's blood brother. He also knew that his boss had an unusual relationship with Lulu. Even the little boss, Gu Xiaoxue, and Ouyang Lulu were like sisters. What's going on? The Everlasting Feast Hall's patrol team arrived. A middle-aged man with a slightly higher rank strode forward and asked in a deep voice. The stalwart man explained the situation and even told him about the relationship between Ouyang Lei and Tan Xiu. The middle-aged man looked at Ouyang Lei with a smile on his face and said, Mr. Ouyang, I shouldn't reveal my boss's whereabouts by right. But since you're not an outsider, there's no harm in telling you. Our boss and little boss went out to sea overnight. I don't know when they will come back. Ouyang Lei frowned and asked, they went out to sea. Why did they go out to sea so late at night? The middle-aged man shook his head and said, I don't know about that. But what I said just now is true. Ouyang Lei was silent for a moment. He then turned around and returned to the car. He told the situation to Ouyang Wenjin. Finally, Ouyang Wenjin said, send someone to stay outside the gate and wait for Tan Xiu. Report to me immediately once he comes back. Let's go back first. Understood. At this time, in the thicket dozens of meters away from the gate post, Yang Le held a toothpick in the corner of his mouth. His handsome face revealed an expression that was neither a smile nor a smile. He had indeed spent some time and effort to find Ouyang Lei's residence, but the results seemed to be good. Ouyang Lei was unexpectedly able to bring so many people to rush here in the middle of the night. What a pity that Tan Xiu has gone out to sea. Even if you come tomorrow morning, I'm afraid you won't be able to see him. Ha ha ha. I'll let you suffer for a while. Yang Lu muttered inwardly as he quietly disappeared into the woods with a smile on his face. However, just half a minute after he left and had yet to pass through the woods, a pair of iron pincer-like hands stretched out from behind a tree and pinched the back of his neck. Don't move if you don't want to die. A deep and low voice sounded behind Yang Lu. Despite his tenacious mind, Yang Lu was scared out of his wits by the sudden turn of events. He was very confident in his skills and was even more confident in his concealment ability. Yet, he didn't even notice that the other party had appeared beside him despite always being extremely vigilant. Don't misunderstand me. I'm Tan Xiu's friend and also a VIP of the Everlasting Feast Hall. Yang Li's voice was a bit trembling as he raised his hands in an instant. Whoosh! 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 3 hazy figures flashed and appeared, while the iron pincer-like hands moved away from the back of Yang Li's neck. The 3 experts of the Everlasting Feast Hall who were responsible for patrolling the night had surrounded Yang Lu in a triangular formation. One of them observed Yang Lu a few times before he cupped his fists and said, I'm sorry, Mr. Yang. But our Everlasting Feast Hall has a rule that no one is allowed to leave the accommodation area late at night. You were sneaky just now, so we couldn't find you first. Yang Lu rubbed the slightly aching back of his neck as he looked at the trio with fear in his eyes. Then, he forced a smile and said, "What kind of monsters are you people from the everlasting feast hall, exactly?" "I'm a famous godly thief. How come I feel that you guys are more suitable to steal than me after meeting you guys?" "I'm sorry." The big man spoke again. Yang Lu forced a smile and waved his hand, saying, "Before Tan Xiu left, he told me that your everlasting feast hall has a lot of rules. Forget it. Since you don't allow me to wander around late at night, then I'll go back and sleep. Remember, don't tell anyone about me if they ask about me." "Understood." The big man nodded. Chapter 536. On the rippling blue sea, a luxury liner braved the wind and waves as it sailed southward. On the deck of the ship's bow, Tan Xiu held a teacup and quietly looked into the distance. After a night of sailing, the sun had already risen from the distant sea, and the outline of an island ahead was already faintly visible. "That's Clam Island, Grand Master." Gu Xiaoxue quietly appeared behind Tan Xiu with graceful steps. "Your proposal is very good. It's indeed suitable to place the medicinal herb plantation base on this island," said Tan Xiu with a smile. "The spiritual qi here is abundant, and it will be greatly beneficial to the growth of the medicinal herbs if we arrange a large array here." "That's right, our people have already explored this Clam Island, right?" "What's the area of this island?" "It's 5.1 kilometers long and 3.6 kilometers wide, with a maximum elevation of about 12 meters, said Gu Xiaoxue. "The island is mostly covered with woodland, but there's a natural lake with a diameter of about 200 to 300 meters inside. Additionally, our Everlasting Feast Hall's members who are proficient in pharmacology have explored the island and found that there are several precious medicinal herbs on the island, some of which are on the medicinal herb list you prepared." Tan Xiu nodded and sighed. This kind of isolated island with no human traces all year round will naturally grow some precious medicinal herbs under the nourishment of abundant spiritual qi. Even the age of these medicinal herbs was shockingly ancient. If my guess is correct, I'm afraid that many of the medicinal herbs we found are very old, right? That's right, said Gu Xiaoxue with a smile. There are more than a dozen precious medicinal herbs that are more than 1,000 years old. If these precious medicinal herbs were to be sold on the market, their value would definitely be very high, said Tan Xiu. Unfortunately, there are very few people in this world who are proficient in medicinal herbs, and even fewer people come to this Clam Island. That's why these medicinal herbs can be preserved for such a long time. While the two were talking, the liner was only a few kilometers away from Clam Island. Due to Tan Xiu's order, the liner didn't stop at the northern coast of Clam Island but circled around the island. Tan Xiu could clearly see another island a few kilometers south of Clam Island. The area of this island seemed to be smaller than Clam Island, but the terrain was vaguely higher, with the highest point being about 30 to 40 meters. "Boss, we found a small liner on the southern coastline of Clam Island." Chief Instructor Gao Feng, who had been stationed at the Everlasting Feast Hall's HQ for a long time, strode over with a pair of binoculars in his hand and a grim expression on his face. "I saw it." Tan Xiu nodded lightly. Gao Feng was stunned, and a strange look appeared in his eyes. One must know that the liner they were on was several kilometers away from the coastline of Clam Island. Even if ordinary people could see the island, it would be very difficult for them to see a small freighter parked on the coastline, right? Unless someone had a pair of eagle eyes. Gu Xiaoxue glanced at Gao Feng, who had a weird expression on his face, and faintly said, "When your cultivation reaches our level, you will be able to see things from a few kilometers away." Gao Feng's eyes lit up as he nodded respectfully. "There's someone on that liner." "If my guess is correct, it's the Yao family's liner," said Tan Xiu lightly. "Moreover, they have already discovered us." "Send someone over." "Yes." Gao Feng acknowledged and immediately returned to the cabin. "Quickly." When Tan Xiu's liner approached the coastline, 4 stalwart men carrying firearms on the other small liner were already standing on the stern deck. Private island, leave immediately. The leader of the group, a bald man, had a cold and gloomy expression in his eyes as he shouted with a megaphone. However, Tan Xiu's liner ignored the other party's shout and stopped tens of meters away from the small liner. Tan Xiu and Gu Xiaoxue then stepped on the reef on the shore, followed by Gao Feng and 10 other experts of the Everlasting Feast Hall. Stop! 4 burly men rushed over with guns, and the leader, a bald man, roared angrily. Tan Xiu faintly asked, "You're not good people since you have firearms. Since you said that this island is private, then I'd like to ask, what's his surname?" "His surname is Yao," said the bald man proudly. "Do you know the Yao family in the imperial capital? This island has been obtained by our Yao family, so it's now our private territory. I don't care who you are. Leave immediately, else don't blame us for being impolite." "The Yao family? What an awe-inspiring Yao family." Tan Xiu coldly glanced at him and said, "Kill them." Whoosh! 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 4 figures flickered lightning fast and instantly pounced toward the 4 big men of the Yao family. Their speed was very fast, and without anyone noticing, they were holding sharp daggers in their hands. Fire! The bald man's expression greatly changed as he aimed his gun at the incoming figures and pulled the trigger without hesitation. However, a series of bullets were fired, yet none of them could hit the 4 experts of the Everlasting Feast Hall. Their speed was extremely fast, and the distance of more than 20 meters was covered in the blink of an eye. The sharp daggers slashed across the 4 big men of the Yao family with fear written all over their faces as they accurately pierced their vital points. Bam! 4 corpses were thrown on the beach. A cold glint flashed in Tan Xiu's eyes. A glaring ray of light flashed from the small liner not far away as a silver needle instantly appeared in his hand. He flicked his hand and threw it, piercing the glass and piercing the glabella of a man holding a sniper rifle. "Go! Kill everyone on that liner." Tan Xiu's eyes narrowed as a cold expression flashed in his eyes. Immediately, the 4 experts didn't hesitate to pounce toward the small liner. They were all ruthless characters whose hands were stained with blood. They executed Tan Xiu's order without hesitation. Wait! Tan Xiu's complexion suddenly changed as he watched the 4 people rushing toward the small liner. Disbelief filled his eyes and he instantly retracted his spiritual sense that he had released. Gu Xiaoxue turned her head and asked in surprise, "What's wrong, Grand Master?" Tan Xiu didn't answer her but strode toward the small liner. When he came to the front of the liner, he lifted his feet and stepped on the void to step on the liner's deck. God! This is... Aside from Gu Xiaoxue, Gao Feng, and the other 10 experts of the Everlasting Feast Hall were dumbfounded as they watched Tan Xiu step on the void and step on the liner's deck. Their heartbeat accelerated. Although they were perfectly aware that one could fly in the air after their cultivation had broken through to a very high level, they were still shocked to the point that it was hard for them to be able to see such a miraculous scene with their own eyes. "All of you, come out." Standing on the bow deck, Tan Xiu shouted sternly. At this moment, more than a dozen people who operated the liner and were responsible for serving as attendants came out of the cabin. Most of them were men, but there were also 4 women. One of them was a familiar face that Tan Xiu never dreamed that he would see here under such circumstances. Tan Xiu. Qing Yannan also didn't expect that she would meet Tan Xiu here. Her eyes were a bit flustered and her heartbeat accelerated. Tan Xiu frowned deeply. He pointed at Qing Yannan and shouted in a deep voice, "Kill them all except her." Affirmative. The 4 stalwart men attacked very quickly. Amidst the screams and screams, they quickly killed more than a dozen people. Under Gu Xiaoxue's order, the corpses were removed from the ship and thrown on the beach. Blarg! Never had Qing Yannan seen such a bloody scene. Her stomach acid gushed out, making her bend over and retch. Fear could be seen in her eyes, as if she couldn't believe that the order just now was issued by Tan Xiu. Tan Xiu stood in front of Qing Yannan. He didn't have the intention to kill Qing Yannan, but he wanted to figure out why Qing Yannan appeared here. It must be noted that this liner belonged to the Yao family, and those who were qualified to come here were also people that the Yao family trusted. After all, the Yao family's secret intention to rent Clam Island was an absolute secret. Give her some water to rinse her mouth, Tan Xiu ordered. Immediately after, a stalwart man entered the cabin and took out a bottle of mineral water from inside. He then handed it to Qing Yannan, who had stopped vomiting. Thank you. Qing Yannan's complexion was a bit pale. She took the bottle of water and rinsed her mouth. Her eyes quickly glanced at the corpses on the beach before she slowly looked up at Tan Xiu. Speak. Tan Xiu said lightly. How come you are here? Hesitating for a moment, Qing Yannan said, My uncle is Yao Qingteng. My family was involved in renting Clam Island. I begged my uncle to bring me here. You know that's not what I'm asking, Tan Xiu said in a deep voice. Qing Yannan's eyes were somewhat evasive as she lowered her head and said, What do you want to know, then? Qing Yannan, Tan Xiu snorted coldly and said, I used to regard you as a good classmate and friend. Speaking of which, I was even your savior. I didn't expect that there would be a day when we would have to hide our conversation. I won't ask if you don't want to say it. Qing Yannan suddenly looked up and looked at Gu Xiaoxue and the surrounding men, saying, Can we talk in private? Tan Xiu nodded. He then looked at Gao Feng and said, Dispose of all those corpses and don't leave any traces. Sail to the sea and sink this liner. Understood. Gao Feng replied. Tan Xiu's figure flashed and appeared beside Qing Yannan. He grabbed her shoulder and flew straight to the beach. His speed was extremely fast. In just a few seconds, he and Qing Yannan had already appeared 100 meters away. Qing Yannan, who was dizzy and disoriented, managed to regain her footing with great difficulty. She turned her head and looked at the small liner 100 meters away, her eyes filled with disbelief. Tan Xiu, you're not dreaming, said Tan Xiu lightly. Qing Yannan gulped down her saliva and looked at Tan Xiu in disbelief, asking with a trembling voice, Who are you? How can you fly? Chapter 537. Tan Xiu calmly looked at Qing Yannan's incredulous expression and indifferently said, My identity is very special, so I can't explain it clearly in just a few words. Since we've met and will have a lot of time together, I'll let you know some things that are hard for ordinary people to know. But you still have to answer my question. Qing Yannan calmed down her surging mood. She turned around and walked a few steps toward the island. She stopped next to a thick tree and bitterly said, Tan Xiu, I believe you also know that I'm a member of the Qing family in the imperial capital. My sister and I were even ostracized by our family. After returning to the imperial capital, I should have continued to enjoy my university life and have a fulfilling and relaxing time in my studies. But just half a month ago, my sister went missing while handling a criminal case and there's no news of her since then. My only backing is my sister. My family members don't like us sisters, so they began to target me and force me to marry the infamous Chu Xiang of the Chu family in the imperial capital. Do you know? Chu Xiang is known as one of the 4 calamities in the imperial capital. He has done countless stupid things and has harmed dozens of girls. He wants me to marry him so that I can climb up the Chu family's high branch. How could I agree? Seeing that Qing Yannan stopped talking, Tan Xiu lightly said, Don't you still have an uncle? Your Qing family and the Yao family have a close relationship, so how could the elders of the Qing family dare to force you? That's right. Yao Qingteng is indeed my uncle, but he doesn't have any familial affection for us sisters. I'm afraid he wouldn't even look at me if we didn't have such a relationship. Qing Yannan sneered. Fortunately, Yao Qingteng's wife, my aunt, likes me very much. If it weren't for my aunt's plea, how could he have brought me here? How could there be a place for me among the women who serve tea and pour water? Tan Xiu fell into silence. Qing Yannan bitterly said, I can't stay in the imperial capital anymore. If I hadn't coincidentally learned that Yao Qingtang was bringing people to the South China Sea, I'm afraid I would have already escaped from the imperial capital and fled somewhere else. Although I don't know what they're going to do on Clam Island, I've made up my mind that I'll stay here even if there's only a 1 in a million chance. Or I'll take the opportunity to leave Jingmen Island alone. Tan Xiu sighed inwardly and asked, Where's Yao Qingtang? Qing Yannan pointed to the depths of the island and said, he took a few people and went inside. He should be back in the evening. The Yao family can't get this Clam Island. Tan Xiu nodded. Since you don't want to go back, you can stay here from now on. Qing Yannan's eyes lit up and she asked, What do you mean? This Clam Island will be mine in the future, said Tan Xiu confidently. Even if the Yao family exhausts all their strength, they won't be able to get it from me. I want to plant medicinal herbs here in the future. Since we're acquaintances, you can stay and help me. I'll also satisfy your salary. Qing Yannan pondered for a moment before she nodded and said, I hope you can get this Clam Island in the future. But you've killed so many people of the Yao family, they won't let it go. Tan Xiu, you probably don't know how powerful the Yao family is, right? Let me tell you, the Yao family. Tan Xiu raised his hand to interrupt her and calmly said, I've already experienced how powerful the Yao family is. Perhaps you don't know that my surname is Tang, and I'm a member of the Tang family in the imperial capital. The Tang family? Qing Yannan's eyes narrowed as she involuntarily exclaimed out loud. That's right. The Tang family. Tan Xiu nodded. Tan Xiu, I didn't expect that you're a member of the Tang family in the imperial capital. The Tang family and the Yao family. I get it. No wonder you showed no mercy to the Yao family. I know a bit about the grievances between your two families. Let's go. Tan Xiu smiled indifferently. You'll stay on our liner first. After we deal with Yao Qingtang's group, no one from the Yao family will set foot on this island again. You'll stay here later. I'll arrange some people to provide you with food, clothing, and shelter. I'll also leave some people here to protect you. Qing Yannan looked dazed. She hesitated and asked, Tan Xiu, you want to kill Yao Qingtang? Do you think he can still leave? Asked Tan Xiu. Qing Yannan gritted her teeth and said, Tan Xiu, can you promise me something? If you want to plead for Yao Qingtang, I think you can forget about it, said Tan Xiu. I don't want to plead leniency for Yao Qingtang. Qing Yannan shook her head and said, he doesn't have any familial love for me. What I want to ask you is, if the Tangs and the Yaos really shed all pretense of cordiality in the future and your two families have a life and death battle, can you spare my aunt's life if your family wins? Tan Xiu was silent for a moment before he nodded and said, I promise you. Qing Yannan shot a grateful look at Tan Xiu. As she was about to follow him to the liner, she suddenly recalled something and quickly asked, You haven't told me yet. How did you fly me just now? Don't ask this question again if you want to stay on this Clam Island, said Tan Xiu with a faint smile. There are some things I won't tell you now. But if you work for me in the future and I'm satisfied with your work, you'll know a lot of things. Qing Yannan was silent for a moment before she suddenly smiled and asked, Since you don't want to tell me, then I won't ask. But can you answer my other question? The last one. Ask away. Said Tan Xiu with a smile. Do you have a girlfriend while you're studying in Shanghai? Asked Qing Yannan. Let's talk about feelings later, said Tan Xiu with a smile. You must study well when you're studying and learn more things during your 4 years in university. Besides, I still have a lot of things to do. How can I have the leisure time to talk about love? An extraordinary splendor flashed in Qing Yannan's eyes as she said with a smile, I agree with your idea. You must focus on your career when you're young. Let's go. Tan Xiu took Qin Yannan back to the coast and saw the small liner sinking in the distant sea, whereas the liner he took was returning to the coast. When the liner docked, Tan Xiu took Qin Yannan to the deck and said, "She's my high school classmate. Let her stay on our liner. Also, the Yao family's people are also on the island. Kill them directly once they appear. Xiaoxue, come with me to the island." "All right." Xiaoxue smiled and nodded to Qin Yannan. Then, she followed Tan Xiu and floated down the ship. Their figures gradually disappeared into the woods on the island. The primitive woods were lush with trees. The duo seemed to be strolling leisurely, but their speed was actually very fast. Just a light step could take them 7 to 8 meters away. As the duo continued to go deeper, they saw a lot of medicinal herbs. Many of them were common herbs, but they could also occasionally see precious ones. There were also a lot of wild animals on this island. 10 minutes later, just as Tan Xiu and Gu Xiaoxue stepped on the highest point in the center of the island, a scream reached their ears. It was accompanied by intense gunshots and several panicked shouts. "Run! Scatter and run! Gather at the shoreline where the ship is parked. Fuck those fucking monsters! Get lost, BAM, BAM, BAM." Tan Xiu and Gu Xiaoxue glanced at each other and tacitly rushed toward the source of the sound. While running, they even soared into the air, stepping on the branches that were more than 10 meters high and constantly flew on the trees. 10 seconds later, the duo stood on the branches of a big tree and looked down at the two fierce beasts that looked like rhinos. The beasts glared fiercely at the 6 men who were fleeing in panic. Behind them were 2 corpses that had been bitten off. The skin is very thick and bullets can't penetrate it. It's very fast. The speed of these people can't be compared with it at all. "Grand Master, they're dead for sure." Gu Xiaoxue's eyes didn't have the slightest trace of pity as she calmly watched the 6 men being chased. Although bullets can hinder these 2 fierce beasts and slow them down a lot, but as you said, they're dead for sure. Tan Xiu nodded. "If my guess is correct, the middle-aged man being protected by those 2 should be Yao Qingtang of the Yao family." "Xiaoxue, I suddenly understand one thing." "What is it?" asked Gu Xiaoxue curiously. "The Yao family letting Yao Xinhua come to Jingmen Island should be a smokescreen. The one who really contacted the government and prepared to sign the lease contract should be Yao Qingtang," said Tan Xiu with a faint smile. "If my guess is correct, the ship we just sank has the contract that the Yao family is preparing to sign. Grand Master really has great wisdom." Gu Xiaoxue smiled. "I think so too. After all, Yao Xinhua is too young, and he doesn't understand a lot of principles in the officialdom. Yao Qingtang is also a very important figure in the Yao family. I'm afraid that he came here personally to inspect Clam Island. Once the final decision is made, he'll negotiate the lease with the government. Bring some people here. After these Yao family people are dead, dispose of their corpses," said Tan Xiu. "Also, remember to send some people to the sea where the ship was sunk to see if they can find some information from the liner. Grand Master, you want me to leave so that you can personally kill those 2 fierce beasts, right?" Gu Xiaoxue said with a smile. "Before we sank the liner, we had already taken back everything we could from the liner. I think it's better for me to stay here and help you. It seems that I really can't hide it from you." Tan Xiu couldn't help but laugh. "You think I don't have the ability to kill these 2 fierce beasts, don't you? Well, since you're willing to stay here, then stay and have a look." In less than a minute, the 2 rhinoceros-like fierce beasts had already killed Yao Qingtang's group of 6. They even wolfed down all the corpses and didn't even spit out the bones. This saves us the trouble of destroying the corpses and erasing the evidence. A smile outlined on the corner of Tan Xiu's mouth as he stood on a tree branch. He softly muttered and then floated down and appeared in front of the 2 rhinoceros-like fierce beasts. Roar! Chapter 538. The sea breeze blew, causing her white dress to flutter. Gu Xiaoxue, who was standing on a tree branch, faintly smiled as she looked at the scene below. Although she knew that her Grand Master's cultivation had made rapid progress in the past few months, she still didn't believe that her Grand Master could easily defeat the two rhino-like fierce beasts. Be careful, Grand Master. Gu Xiaoxue flipped her hand and held two lightning talismans between her fingers. Once her Grand Master was in danger, she would immediately act. Tan Xiu turned his head and faintly smiled. When he looked at the two rhino-like fierce beasts again, he laughed and said, I don't lack fierce beast materials recently, so you too can be spared from death, but you still can't escape punishment. Since the island next door will become a place for me to rear fierce beasts in the future, I'll capture you today and throw you to the island next door. The two rhino-like fierce beasts obviously had some spiritual wisdom. Although they couldn't understand what Tan Xiu was saying, they could still feel Tan Xiu's malice. Therefore, one of the rhino-like fierce beasts glared at Tang Xiu with its big scarlet eyes as it jumped high and used its sharp claws to grab Tang Xiu's head. Its speed was unbelievably fast. If there were ordinary people here, even if they were to stare at it with full concentration, they would only be able to see a fleeting afterimage. Tan Xiu's toes touched the ground and his body instantly retreated. If his cultivation hadn't advanced by leaps and bounds and reached the peak of the viscera transformation stage, perhaps he really wouldn't be a match for this fierce beast. But now, he was confident that he could easily kill this fierce beast. Array weapon, broken saber. A dagger instantly flew out from Tan Xiu's palm. As Tan Xiu continued to send out hand seals, the dagger split into two and then doubled in size. In just a second, thousands of daggers had appeared in front of Tan Xiu. Slash, a low and deep voice came out of his mouth. The densely packed daggers spun at an extremely fast speed and rushed towards the fierce beast in a spiral shape. In an instant, the fierce beast was completely surrounded. Roar, an angry roar came from the rhinoceros-like beast's mouth. Its sharp teeth, claws, and the layers of scales on its body all stood up in an instant. A deep blue halo was spat out along with the roar and instantly exploded like smoke. Crack crack crack, the layers of daggers seemed to have cracks on them. The chill that was like blue smoke instantly caused the surrounding temperature to drop to freezing point. The leaves that were swaying in the wind seemed to freeze in an instant. Insignificant skill. A look of disdain flashed across Tan Xiu's eyes. As he waved his arm, a saber light appeared and instantly swept across the rhino-like beast's sharp claws. As the 10 sharp claws were chopped off in an instant, Tan Xiu's figure flashed. As he moved his fingers, a bolt of lightning struck down from the clear sky without any warning. Thunder arts. He was now able to release Dharma spells. The sound of rolling thunder exploded in the sky, and a bolt of lightning as thick as a baby's arm directly struck the back of the rhino-like beast. Although this strike did not turn it into ashes, it still caused it to hit the ground heavily, causing a layer of dust to splash up. On the tree branch. Gu Xiaoxue was dumbfounded as she watched Tan Xiu's mighty appearance. That surging aura made her pupils contract, and she had a feeling of wanting to worship him. She had imagined countless scenes of her grandmaster fighting with the rhino-like beast, but she never thought that her grandmaster could already cast Dharma spells, and the power was actually so strong. One had to know that even the current her couldn't do it to this extent. Could it be that Grandmaster's strength has already surpassed mine? How is this possible? A few months ago, his cultivation level was only. Gu Xiaoxue swallowed her saliva, and the rhythm of her heartbeat was several times stronger than before. Roar, the other rhino-like beast showed a look of fear in its eyes, but when it saw the scene of its companion being attacked, it didn't know whether it was dead or alive. A violent rage surged out of it, and it didn't run away. Instead, it rushed toward Tan Xiu. Tan Xiu nodded and praised, "You never abandon your companion. You're a good psychic beast. In that case, I'll fulfill your wish." Tan Xiu's figure floated up, his feet stood in the air, and he pinched a spell. Suddenly, several waist-thick trees around him were uprooted. When the rhino-like beast jumped up, it was propped up by an earth pillar that rose from under it, and the trunks of several big trees smashed into its body. Bang, 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 the trunks of several big trees were broken, but the beast was also smashed, bleeding from its 7 orifices. It fell heavily next to the other rhino-like beast. At this moment, Tang Xiu's body swooped down like a cannonball and landed on the back of the fierce beast that was bleeding from its 7 orifices. His fists fell like raindrops and smashed the rhino-like fierce beast that was struggling to get up, causing it to scream again and again. Roar! The other rhino-like beast wanted to get up, but Tang Xiu flashed and kicked its abdomen, directly kicking it tens of meters away. After smashing 7 or 8 big trees in a row, it fell heavily to the ground and directly fainted. Half a minute of violent beating. Tang Xiu finally stopped. He grabbed the dying fierce beast, grabbed it, and fiercely smashed it on the other fainted fierce beast. Even the fainted rhino-like fierce beast was abruptly awakened under the huge force. Whoosh! Tang Xiu's ghostly figure instantly caught up. When his feet landed in front of the 2 fierce beasts, a faint smile hung on the corner of his mouth as he shouted in a deep voice, "Do you still want to fight?" The 2 rhino-like fierce beasts were terrified by Tang Xiu at this time. An intense fear bred in their hearts. They struggled to get up and escape, only to find that their scarred bodies were not enough to support them to get up. Tang Xiu turned to look at the dumbfounded Gu Xiaoxue on the tree branch and smilingly said, "How about it? It's quite easy to deal with these 2 fierce beasts, isn't it? In fact, if I wanted to kill them, it would be much easier. I would only need a few seconds to kill them." Gu Xiaoxue took a deep breath and suppressed the shock inside her heart. Her white dress fluttered as though she was a fairy. After she landed at Tang Xiu's side, she cupped her fists and respectfully said, "Grand Master, your cultivation is very powerful, so it's indeed easy for you to deal with these 2 fierce beasts. I really didn't expect that Grand Master's cultivation has been promoted to this level. Even I won't be your match even if I go all out, Grand Master." Tang Xiu chuckled and said, "Even though I have the fortune to cultivate again, it's more of a luck factor. Xiaoxue, this clam island is a good place to plant medicinal herbs. However, a lot of the forest on this island must be cut down. We can leave some trees in the surroundings, but the planting of the medicinal garden inside must be done well. We need to plant a lot of medicinal herbs. Although this island is very large, we still need to use as much land as possible if we want to cultivate herbs on a large scale." "I understand, Grand Master," said Gu Xiaoxue respectfully. "I'll look for the top planners in the country after we go back and personally bring them here. I'll ask them to design the planning map for us after the inspection." "No need to be so troublesome." Tang Xiu waved his hand. "I'll be responsible for the planning map. You only need to send someone to measure the total area of the medicinal garden. Alright, let's go up and have a look. If there are no other problems, let's go to the neighboring island." "Alright." Gu Xiaoxue replied and grabbed the legs of the 2 fierce beasts. In the next moment, she soared into the air and flew with Tang Xiu for more than 10 minutes. After observing the entire clam island, the duo then flew back to the southern coastline where the liner was anchored. On the deck of the liner's bow, Qing Yannan was sitting on a deck chair, bathing in the sunlight and quietly reading a book. When she noticed 2 shadows falling from the sky and landing in front of her, she suddenly looked up. "You guys," Qing Yannan's pupils shrunk and she jumped up from the deck chair in fright. She was 100% sure that Tang Xiu and Gu Xiaoxue had just fallen from the sky. What did this mean? It meant that the 2 of them had flown down. Furthermore, the most inconceivable thing to her was that Gu Xiaoxue's small body was actually holding 2 wild beasts that were twice her size. Gu Xiaoxue reached out and threw the 2 dying fierce beasts on the deck. She then looked at the several stalwart men and said, "Watch them. If they dare to struggle and get up, kill them directly." "Understood." A few stalwart men said respectfully. Gu Xiaoxue let out a faint smile and looked at Qing Yannan. Miss Cheng, since Grand Master has kept your life and also remembered the friendship between us as classmates, then we're not outsiders. I'm Gu Xiaoxue. You can call me Big Sister Gu or Xiaoxue. We're going to the neighboring island later. Do you want to stay on the ship? Do you want to go with us? Or stay on Clam Island? You can rest assured that I'll send some people to protect you if you want to stay on Clam Island. I'll go with you, said Cheng Yannan without hesitation. Gu Xiaoxue nodded with a smile and said, pass down the order to sail to the neighboring island. In addition, leave 4 people to guard Clam Island from now on. If any outsiders dare to land on the island, kill them directly. However, if the other party has a large number of people and you think you're not their match, then promptly hide and don't confront them. The 4 stalwart men cupped their fists and said, this subordinate understands. The liner set sail and it didn't take long for it to sail to the neighboring island. Tan Xiu and Gu Xiaoxue still didn't bring anyone else as they flew toward the island. After entering the mountain forest, the duo observed for a while. What made them feel a bit inconceivable was that they actually found a lot of fierce beasts on this island. After a careful count, they found about 70 to 80 fierce beasts. Grand Master, I think there's something wrong with this island. Gu Xiaoxue slightly furrowed her brows and spoke after flying up to the air with Tan Xiu. I also noticed it. Tan Xiu nodded. We found those 2 fierce beasts on Clam Island. This island is very close to Clam Island, yet there are so many fierce beasts on this island. I'm afraid there's something special about it. His words abruptly came to a halt. The moment they flew to the edge of the island, he found the scene in the sea below unbelievable. Chapter 539. On the southern part of the island, there were hundreds of fierce beasts. Some of these beasts were swimming on the surface of the sea, while some were treading on the surface of the sea as if they were taking a leisurely stroll. Thousands of fierce beasts were densely packed on the beach. Some of them were lying on the beach, while others were jumping around and running around. Heavens! How come there are so many fierce beasts here? Despite Gu Xiaoxue's composure, she couldn't help but exclaim at this time. A glint flashed in Tan Xiu's eyes. Although he couldn't figure out why there were so many fierce beasts here, he seemed to see countless fierce beasts being kept in captivity and countless cultivation resources piled up like a mountain. Xiaoxue, I don't believe in heaven, but I still want to thank it at this moment. The appearance of so many fierce beasts here is like charcoal in snowy weather. If we can take care of this place and control all the fierce beasts below, we won't need to capture ordinary fierce beasts to domesticate. Gu Xiaoxue's eyes lit up, but they dimmed after a while. She forced a smile and said, this place is too terrifying, Grand Master. Even if our cultivation is very high, I'm afraid we can't catch all of them, right? We can't catch all of them, but I believe we can catch them sooner or later if we bring more experts here, Tan Xiu said with a smile. Huh? No. Suddenly. Tan Xiu's complexion suddenly changed. The moment he reached out to hold Gu Xiaoxue's slender waist, his figure swooped toward the mountain forest like a lightning bolt. In just a short moment, he had already taken Gu Xiaoxue and appeared in the dense mountain forest. What's wrong, Grand Master? Gu Xiaoxue had almost never been in contact with a man. Being hugged by Tan Xiu by her slender waist, the warmth from Tan Xiu's big hands, and the smell of Tan Xiu's masculine scent made her body slightly weak. Even the tips of her ears had turned a little red at this moment. Tan Xiu didn't notice Gu Xiaoxue's abnormality. He didn't let go of Gu Xiaoxue at this time. Instead, he quickly rushed towards the northern coastline with her. 2 minutes later, he returned to the liner with Gu Xiaoxue and gave the order to set sail. The liner set sail and once again stopped at the coastline of Clam Island, but this time, it was already at the northern coastline of Clam Island. Grand Master, what's going on? Gu Xiaoxue was finally released by Tan Xiu. She secretly heaved a sigh of relief and asked again. Frowning, Tan Xiu forced a smile and said, it seems that I'm just indulging in fantasy. We thought that we had encountered great benefits, but we forgot about the great trouble. I've encountered such a gathering of ferocious beasts several times, and I've even encountered a large-scale gathering of immortal beasts. If my guess is correct, the island next door has already been occupied by vicious beasts and has become a vicious beast paradise. There are two necessary conditions to form a vicious beast paradise. Gu Xiaoxue asked in surprise, which two? First, there's definitely a huge spiritual vein under that island, said Tan Xiu seriously. And this spiritual vein is very active. Gu Xiaoxue nodded and said, I felt it when we just landed on the island. The concentration of heaven and earth spiritual qi there is indeed several times stronger than that of Clam Island. That's just one of the reasons. The second reason is that there must be very terrifying fierce beasts on that island, said Tan Xiu. Such fierce beasts are at least high-level ones. Even with my current cultivation, I'm not sure if I can deal with them. I even suspect that the strength of that fierce beast is far beyond mine and has reached a very high level. That's because the number of fierce beasts we've seen is more than 2,000, and this is only the ones on the surface. Who knows how many fierce beasts there are under the sea? Gu Xiaoxue's complexion greatly changed and she hurriedly asked, then what should we do? That island is the best place to rear fierce beasts. It'll be a pity if we give it up. Furthermore, if we can't solve the problem of the fierce beasts on that island, even if we get Clam Island, I'm afraid it'll be dangerous to plant medicinal herbs there. A smile appeared on the corner of Tan Xiu's mouth as he said, we may not be the most powerful fierce beast's opponent, but don't forget that our everlasting feast hall still has a powerful expert. Gu Xiaoxue stared blankly for a moment before her eyes lit up and she excitedly said, you mean Elder Ji, Grand Master? Yes, it's Ji Qimei. Tan Xiu nodded. She may be injured, but she used to be an immortal, after all. Although her current strength has fallen to the level of an immortal, it won't be a problem for her to blow up the entire earth if she goes all out. Not to mention dealing with a fierce beast. A bright smile appeared on Gu Xiaoxue's face as she heavily nodded and said, you're right, Grand Master. If old Ji were to come, he would definitely be able to kill the most powerful beast right away. Do you want me to send someone back to call Elder Ji over? No hurry. Tan Xiu waved and said, the purpose of our visit this time is to investigate. I'm very satisfied with the result. Alright, let's go back to Jingmen Island first. Once I get Clam Island and the neighboring island through my connections, we'll come back again. Also, I originally planned to leave some people here, but now it seems that the security issue here is quite worrying, so we'll all leave. Are you going to take that classmate of yours with you? Asked Gu Xiaoxue curiously. I trust her. Tan Xiu nodded. I believe she won't divulge the things I told her. Tang Xiu nodded. But just in case, send someone to keep an eye on her. Understood. Gu Xiaoxue nodded. The liner set sail and returned to Jingmen Island late at night. The group didn't stay for long and directly returned to the Everlasting Feast Hall's HQ. Where are we, Tan Xiu? With a curious look on her face, Cheng Yannan looked at the interior of the Everlasting Feast Hall's manor in surprise. Jingmen Island's Everlasting Feast Hall, answered Tan Xiu with a smile. How long are we going to stay here? Cheng Yannan nodded and asked. You told me to stay on Clam Island before, yet you brought me here now. What exactly are you thinking? After my investigation, I found that there are some dangers on Clam Island, said Tan Xiu. For your safety, I must bring you back first. Don't worry. We'll go back, but before that, I need to do something. All right. Cheng Yannan nodded. Shortly after, Cheng Yannan was arranged by the Everlasting Feast Hall's people to stay in the guest room next to Yang Li's. In the middle of the night, when Tan Xiu and Gu Xiaoxue watched Cheng Yannan enter her room to rest, the door next door was opened. Yang Li poked his head out and saw Tan Xiu and Gu Xiaoxue. He immediately smiled and straightened his back, saying, Brother Tan Xiu, you're back. If you didn't come back, I'm afraid I would have suffocated to death in this guest room. Since yesterday morning, that fellow surnamed Ouyang has practically been staying in the hall downstairs without leaving even a single step. Ouyang lay. How come we didn't see him when we came up? Asked Tan Xiu with a smile. The everlasting feast hall has too many rules. Yang Lu rolled his eyes and said, you can't casually walk out of the guest room at night. Otherwise, do you think that Brad is willing to leave? However, I heard that the Ouyang family made quite a big move yesterday. It seems that many of their businesses have been closed. Ha ha ha. What did you do? Asked Tan Xiu. How could you make the Ouyang family make such a big move? Yang Lu strode forward and grabbed Tan Xiu's arm, pulling Tan Xiu to his room. Gu Xiaoxue also followed him inside with curiosity. Yang Lu picked up the account books from the bookcase and showed them to Tan Xiu. Then, he said with a smile, Brother Tan Xiu, it was you who told me to mess with Ouyang Lei, so I found his address and took some things from him. These account books record most of the Ouyang family's shady businesses. Even if I don't know much about some of them, I can guarantee that the Ouyang family will be in big trouble if I leak out the contents of these account books. Tan Xiu grabbed the account books and flipped through them for more than 10 minutes with a strange expression on his face. He finally understood why Ouyang Lei would stay here. The contents recorded in these account books were too troublesome. My purpose has been achieved and I've messed with him. Don't let him sleep. I'll give him a call and tell him to come and get the account books. After saying that, Tan Xiu took out his mobile and dialed Ouyang Lei's cell number. At this moment, Ouyang Lei, who was squatting in a guest room of the everlasting feast hall and smoking, was startled by the sudden ringtone of his mobile phone. He strode to the cabinet and grabbed the phone. He looked at the caller ID and nearly cried out. With trembling fingers, he pressed the answer button and called out in a trembling voice, Sis, no. It's Tan Xiu. Brother Tan Xiu, big brother Tan Xiu. You finally called me back. A smile outlined on the corner of Tan Xiu's mouth as he said, Oh, big brother Ouyang called me brother-in-law? No, it's your future brother-in-law, right? With a sullen face, Ouyang Lei said, No, I won't call you that even if you beat me to death. Brother Tan Xiu, big brother Tan Xiu, tell me, is my thing in your hands? Yeah, it's in my hands, said Tan Xiu with a smile. You want it? Then wait for me in the lobby on the first floor. I'll go down later. It's really in your hands? That's great. I'll be there right away. Ouyang Lei hung up the phone with an ecstatic look on his face. He couldn't care less about the fact that Tan Xiu had stolen his account books. As long as he could get those account books back, he wouldn't refuse even if he had to kowtow 8 times to the north. A few minutes later, Tan Xiu and Yang Lu appeared in the lobby on the first floor with a faint smile on their faces. Looking at Ouyang Lei's red eyes, messy hair, and untidy clothes, Tan Xiu threw the account books to him and said with a smile, How is it? How do you feel these 2 days? Ouyang Lei took the account books and didn't have the time to answer Tan Xiu. He quickly flipped through the records and found that there were no mistakes. Only then did his heart, which was hanging in mid-air, finally calmed down. Thank you. Thank you, brother Tan Xiu. Chapter 540. Yang Lu looked at Ouyang Lei with a strange expression and incredulously said, Hey, Ouyang Lei, is there something wrong with your brain? Tan Xiu asked me to steal it, and now you're thanking him. What kind of logic is this? Logically speaking, shouldn't you take off your shoes and give him a good beating? Ouyang Lei's grateful expression froze as he stared blankly at Tan Xiu and Yang Lu. At this moment, he seemed to wake up from a dream. That's right. Why did I thank them? It's all thanks to them that I almost collapsed these past 2 days. For a moment, the gratitude inside Ouyang Lei's heart turned into nothingness. He wanted to get angry, but he didn't dare to do so. Not to mention Tang Xiu in front of him, just this guy named Yang Lu was too powerful. This guy was practically on par with the world's top thieves. Yang Lu looked at Ouyang Lei's changing expression and grinned. Let me introduce myself. I'm Yang Lu, a disciple of the Steel Sect. There's at least a 1% chance that I'm the mastermind behind all the major thefts in the world. The Steel Sect? Ouyang Lei's expression greatly changed and a vigilant look appeared in his eyes. If he was an ordinary family member, he might not know what the Steel Sect was, but because of his mother, he had heard many legends about the Steel Sect. Yang. Brother Yang. Ouyang Lei coughed and called out with an obsequious smile. As the saying goes, don't be afraid of a thief stealing, but be afraid of a thief remembering. Yang Lu didn't have any malicious intent, yet he had already made the Ouyang family flustered. If they were targeted by him because of something, it was likely that the Ouyang family wouldn't have a good future. Yang Lu grinned and said, don't be so polite, Brother Ouyang. Your brother Tan Xiu's future brother-in-law, so we'll be on the same side in the future. Tan Xiu rolled his eyes and waved his hand, saying, don't talk nonsense. Go rest early and do whatever you need to do tomorrow. I still have something to do, so I can't accompany you. After saying that, he returned to the second floor and took a shower in his room. He then changed into a set of pajamas sent by Gu Xiaoxue. Although it was already late at night, Tan Xiu still took out his mobile and dialed the old man's cell number. After a while, the call was connected, and the old man's voice came from the phone. Xiu, why are you calling so late at night? Is there something urgent? Tan Xiu said, Grandpa, there is indeed something urgent. Tang Guoxing said, tell me, what is it? Auntie should have told you that the Yao family is going to rent the Clam Island in the South China Sea, said Tan Xiu. I've received accurate information that the Yao family's purpose in renting Clam Island is to unite with the major families that are on good terms with them and prepare to cultivate armed forces. The person who was really in contact with the government was Yao Qingteng. Yao Xinhua was just a cover to deceive the public. The reason I'm looking for you so late at night is because I want Clam Island. Apart from Clam Island, I also want to rent another island a few kilometers away from Clam Island. Tang Guoxing asked in surprise, why do you want to rent those two islands? Clam Island is suitable for planting medicinal herbs, while the other island is suitable for breeding fierce beasts, said Tan Xiu. If I can take down these two islands, in 10 years at most, I can make the Tang clan 100 times stronger than it is now. Are you sure? Tang Guoxing's tone turned particularly serious. I give you my word, said Tan Xiu with all seriousness. Tang Guoxing was silent for 2 minutes before he finally said in a deep voice, I see. Wait for my news. Wait. Sensing that Tang Guoxing was about to hang up the phone, Tan Xiu hurriedly said, Grandpa, there's something important I need to tell you. It may be helpful for our Tang family to take down Clam Island and the other island. What is it? Asked Tang Guoxing. I just returned to Jingmen Island from Clam Island, said Tan Xiu. I met some people of the Yao family on Clam Island, and I killed some of them. Yao Qingteng and some others died on Clam Island. The documents and procedures brought by Yao Qingteng are now in my hands. Do you want me to send them to you? Tang Guoxing was overjoyed, that's great. Send someone to send them immediately. That's right, can you guarantee the safety on the road? No problem, said Tan Xiu. Since there's no problem, I'll wait for those documents in the imperial capital, said Tang Guoxing with all seriousness. Once I get them, I'll be able to operate better according to the conditions set by the Yao family and the government. After hanging up the phone, Tan Xiu called Gao Feng and ordered him to bring several experts to the imperial capital overnight to deliver the documents to the Tang family's ancestral residence. He also urged him to personally hand it over to Tang Guoxing. Early morning the next day. Jingmen Island's first public hospital. Yao Xinhua, who had been in a coma for 2 days, finally woke up. He was not cured by the doctors of Jingmen Island's first public hospital, but naturally woke up. When the white wall came into view, the pungent smell of soda drilled into his nose. After taking saline for 2 days, he supported his arms and sat up with difficulty. Where am I? Yao Xinhua looked at his sleepy subordinate next to the bed and asked. The middle-aged man raised his head in a daze. When he found that Yao Xinhua had woken up, he suddenly quivered and jumped up from the chair. With a face full of ecstasy, he asked, Young master, you're finally awake. I'll call the doctor. Please wait for a moment. Yao Xinhua frowned and stopped him, asking in a deep voice, You haven't told me where this place is? What happened to me? The middle-aged man forced a smile and said, Young master, you inexplicably fell into a coma at the charity party held by the Ouyang family. No matter how we called you, we couldn't wake you up. The most important thing is that after we sent you to the hospital, no matter how the hospital examined you or how the doctors diagnosed you, they couldn't figure out the reason behind your coma. That's right, this is Jingmen Island's first public hospital. You've been staying here for 2 days. Yao Xinhua frowned and said, You mean, I suddenly fell into a coma? At the charity party that night? The middle-aged man nodded affirmatively. A look of recollection appeared in Yao Xinhua's eyes as he recalled the scene before he fell into a coma. Suddenly, his complexion changed and he asked in a deep voice, What about Tan Xiu? Where was Tan Xiu after I fell into a coma that night? The middle-aged man was confused and said, You mean Tan Xiu of the Tang family? Yes, it's him, said Yao Xinhua in a deep voice. Before my memory finally faded, I was with him. Where was he at that time? The middle-aged man forced a smile and said, Young master, he had already disappeared when we found you unconscious that night. However, something happened to our men that night. What happened? Asked Yao Xinhua. The middle-aged man said, Didn't you transfer 2 squads to the Sheraton Hotel to set up an ambush? Each squad had a total of 2 snipers, and all of them were lying in ambush in the opposite building. As a result, after you fell unconscious and were sent to the hospital, I personally issued the order to evacuate the 2 squads. Who would have thought that the 2 snipers would be killed? The most unbelievable thing is that their glabella was pierced with a silver needle. It was just a silver needle, but it pierced the most important brain nerve and directly killed them. Hiss, Yao Xinhua couldn't help but gasp after hearing it. He still clearly remembered the conversation between him and Tan Xiu. It was about who could leave the Sheraton Hotel standing and who could go out horizontally. There was no doubt that Tan Xiu was the one who attacked him at that time, and he was also the one who lost and had to be carried out. Why didn't he directly kill me at that time? With his terrifying ability, even if he killed me directly, I'm afraid that no one would notice it. In addition, using silver needles to kill 2 snipers who had been lying in ambush a long time ago, this killer was definitely extremely terrifying. Was it Tan Xiu? Or Tan Xiu's men? Yao Xinhua kept thinking about it, but every problem that came to his mind made his hands and feet turn cold. He finally understood why he lost so miserably in the fight for the 2 southern provinces. It was because Tan Xiu's strength was too terrifying, and it was very likely that he controlled an extremely terrifying armed force. After a long time, Yao Xinhua looked at the middle-aged man and asked in a deep voice, Has my second uncle come back? The middle-aged man shook his head and said, No, he hasn't. We called his satellite phone, only to find that no one answered it. Further, our people have also lost contact with the liner. Yao Xinhua's complexion drastically changed and hurriedly asked, There's a special communication device on the liner. How could we lose contact with the people on the liner? The middle-aged man forced a smile and said, The communication device on the liner has been turned off, so we can't get in touch with them. Yao Xinhua was silent for a moment and then said, I see. Let's go back to the imperial capital first and talk about other things later. The middle-aged man hesitated and cautiously said, Young master, someone came this morning to press for a debt. Pressing for a debt? What the hell are you talking about? Yao Xinhua angrily shouted. Who do we owe a debt to? The middle-aged man whispered, they said that they were sent by Tan Xiu. They said that there's a 1 billion gambling debt. 1 billion? Gambling debt? Yao Xinhua was stunned. He suddenly recalled the bet he made with Tan Xiu at the charity party. Suddenly, he felt aggrieved and uncomfortable inside. Although he didn't know what Tan Xiu had done to him, the final result was that he was carried out, whereas Tan Xiu left by himself. What should I do? Am I really going to lose 1 billion renminbi to that surnamed Tang? Yao Xinhua clenched his fists. Humiliation flashed in his eyes as he said in a deep voice, let's talk about it when we get back. I think it's better not to wait until we get back. If you're willing to bet, you must be willing to accept your loss. This is the rule of the gambling world. Since young Master Yao has lost to me, you won't renege on your debt for a mere 1 billion, right? A joking voice came from outside the ward. As the voice faded away, Tan Xiu, along with 2 stalwart men, strode into the ward. A faint smile hung on his handsome face as he looked at Yao Xinhua, who had just come down from the sickbed. There will be 4 chapters today. Seeking monthly votes for support. Chapter 541. Yao Xinhua's complexion drastically changed. He instantly retreated as his cold and gloomy eyes fell on Tan Xiu. What happened at the charity gala made his vigilance toward Tan Xiu reach the extreme. Are you here to make trouble? Asked Yao Xinhua in a deep voice. Didn't you hear it clearly? Tan Xiu waved his hand and smilingly said. Fine, I'll repeat it again since you didn't hear it clearly. You haven't forgotten our bet, have you? You've already lost. You were carried out of the Sheraton Hotel. So, according to our bet, you should pay me 1 billion renminbi. My purpose in coming here is actually very simple. First, I want to see if you've woken up, and second, I want money. Don't tell me that the dignified young master of the Yao family can't even take out 1 billion renminbi. Yao Xinhua stared fixedly at Tan Xiu. After a dozen seconds, the anger on his face suddenly vanished and a bright smile appeared on his handsome face. He pushed away the stalwart man, rubbed his hands and smilingly said, You're right, Tan Xiu. I'm willing to accept my loss. Give me your account number and I'll send someone to transfer the money to your account later. Touching his chin, Tan Xiu suddenly grinned and said, Young Master Yao is really a forthright person. Had it not been for our identities, perhaps we could have become good friends. How about this? Although it's our second meeting, we still appreciate each other. It's not easy for us to meet each other, so I'll stay here and chat with you while I'm at it. When the money arrives, I'll go out and book a table to welcome you and celebrate your awakening. Young Master Tang, are you afraid that I'll go back on my words? Yao Xinhua smiled and said, All right then, since you want to welcome me, then I won't be polite. After saying that, he gave 2 instructions to the middle-aged man beside him. After getting Tang Xiu's account number, the middle-aged man hesitated for a moment before he walked out of the ward. Sitting on the chair, Tan Xiu pointed at the bed and smiled. You've been unconscious for 2 days, so your body must be stiff. Young Master Yao, you should rest on the bed. By the way, where are the 2 foreign experts beside you? Shouldn't they be accompanying you on your expeditions and helping you conquer the empire? A glint flashed in Yao Xinhua's eyes. He didn't show it on the surface, but he was more vigilant in his heart. He didn't expect that Tan Xiu would know about the existence of Ai Murue and Topherson. Young Master Tang seems to know a lot about me. On the other hand, I know very little about young Master Tang's identity. Looks like we have to get closer someday and get to know each other better. Tan Xiu laughed involuntarily and said, Why is young Master Yao so modest? I believe that you've already turned over my background, right? Oh right, after hearing what you said, I thought of something. I heard that young Master Yao had been abroad for a few years. You should have met Yao Qinglong often, right? 4th uncle. Yao Xinhua's heart skipped a beat. He didn't understand why Tan Xiu suddenly mentioned his 4th uncle, Yao Qinglong. However, he still shook his head with a faint smile and said, "Young Master Tang, you must be joking. My fourth uncle is usually only responsible for the family business. I rarely manage the family business, so I almost never see him." "That's not right." Tan Xiu shook his head. "I think you should meet him often. Yao Qinglong is the chief disciple of the thief sect. Although he usually doesn't show his talent, he must have a big family business abroad. I heard a friend of mine mentioning him a few days ago, and he highly praised him." Yao Xinhua's expression finally changed. The smile on his face receded like a tide. He looked at Tan Xiu with vigilance and said, "How did you know that my fourth uncle is the chief disciple of the thief sect? I really guessed it right, didn't I?" Tan Xiu pretended to be curious. TSK. I really admire my IQ. I heard that the chief disciple of the thief sect is called Yao Qinglong. I suddenly remembered that someone in your Yao family also has this name, so I just casually mentioned it. I didn't expect that it would really match. Yao Xinhua's expression instantly turned extremely ugly. He stared at Tan Xiu and angrily said, "Are you trying to trick me?" No. I've always heard that young Master Yao is very resourceful. How could I have the idea to trick you?" Tan Xiu waved his hand and said with a smile. "I just casually asked. It's absolutely a casual question. About that, isn't the efficiency of your subordinates too low? We've been sitting here and talking for a long time. How come he hasn't finished his work yet? Young Master Yao, are you really so poor that you can't take out 1 billion RMB? You even want your men to scrape together the money? Yao Xinhua found that he, who had always been calm and cunning, suddenly felt that his IQ was not enough after facing Tan Xiu. "All right, enough with the you and me," Tan Xiu said with a smile. "If you really can't take out 1 billion RMB, I'll give you a discount since I'm not an unreasonable person. What do you think? If you think it's still too much, I can also give you a 20% discount. Young Master Tang is quite generous." Yao Xinhua sneered. "But no need. 1 billion renminbi is just a small amount of money in my eyes. Besides, I'm not like some people who got this money from their families. Of course, each bill is stained with blood. I don't know if others will end up like the original owners of those bills if they use my money." "Awesome." Tan Xiu gave a thumbs up and praised. "My money is given by my family. I don't have any ability. I don't even dare to kill a chicken. At most, I can occasionally knock some pigs and dogs unconscious." Yao Xinhua was furious. The reason why he appeared in the hospital was because he was knocked unconscious by Tan Xiu. Tan Xiu's words implied that he was a pig and a dog. Knock, the ward's door was knocked. The middle-aged man who had left before returned and whispered in Yao Xinhua's ear. Yao Xinhua raised his head and looked at Tan Xiu, saying, "The money has been transferred to your account. May I know what young Master Tang wants to treat me to today?" "I just met a pig butcher," Tan Xiu said with a faint smile. "The day before yesterday, he said that he wants to put down his butcher knife and open a restaurant. I've already told him before I came and asked him to get us some pufferfish. We'll eat pufferfish meat today." "Pufferfish?" Yao Xinhua's heart trembled. He suddenly turned to look at the middle-aged man beside him and angrily shouted, "What did you just say? You want me to go back and deal with something? Young Master Tang wants to invite me to eat pufferfish meat. Didn't you hear it?" The middle-aged man stared blankly at first before he immediately understood Yao Xinhua's meaning. He quickly said, "Young Master, it's not that I want you to go back, but we really have something to do. How about you invite young Master Tang to eat pufferfish meat some other day? I remember that there was an old carpenter who used to sell coffins. He recently opened a restaurant and learned how to cook pufferfish for a few days." Yao Xinhua nodded with satisfaction and a smile appeared on his face. He then looked at Tan Xiu and said, "Young Master Tang, I'm afraid I really have to apologize to you today. I'll treat you some other day." I'll do it myself. Tan Xiu glanced at the middle-aged man with a smile. He got up and walked to his side. He gently patted his shoulder and said with a smile, "Not bad. You're a very loyal dog. Since young Master Yao has something to do today, then I won't force you. Goodbye." After saying that, Tan Xiu walked out of the ward along with the two big men. Just as he was about to reach the ward's door, he suddenly stopped, turned his head and said with a smile, "Young Master Yao, since your fourth uncle is the chief disciple of the thief sect, do remember to say hello to him on my behalf when you see him. As for the businesses in his hands, I'd like to have a good cooperation with him if there's an opportunity in the future." "Sure. I won't see you out," Yao Xinhua said with a fake smile. Following Tan Xiu's departure, Yao Xinhua's expression finally turned gloomy. After he fiercely punched the bed with his fist, his other hand took out his mobile and dialed the number of his family's elders. A few minutes later, after leaving Jingmen Island's first public hospital's entrance, Tan Xiu comfortably sat on the back seat of the car and asked, "What do you two think? Did I have the upper hand just now, or did that surnamed Yao guy have the upper hand?" The big man on the front seat turned his head and said with a smile, "Boss, your imposing manner is very strong. You've been suppressing that surnamed Yao guy, so of course you had the upper hand. Imposing manner and whatnot is just an illusion," Tan Xiu said with a smile. "At least my purpose in coming here today has been achieved. TSK. Even if that Yao Xinhua is rich, I'm afraid it'll be enough for him to feel pain for a while. Also, I found something interesting today that will definitely let Yao Xinhua live for a while." "What interesting thing, boss?" The big man on the front seat was confused. "Haven't you noticed that Yao Xinhua is very afraid of me?" Tan Xiu asked with a smile. The big man stared blankly for a moment before he immediately nodded and said with a smile, "Indeed. His eyes were full of vigilance ever since he saw you. Furthermore, he always revealed an attitude as if he's facing a formidable enemy when confronting you. It's just that this subordinate doesn't get it. If he's an enemy, why not kill him directly? Why let him live for a while longer? We're bound to have a fierce battle with the Yao family in the future," Tan Xiu said with a smile. "Although Yao Xinhua is very shrewd and can be regarded as one of the best in the younger generation, I've planted a seed of fear in his heart. In the future, it'll be very difficult for him to maintain a normal state of mind as long as he faces me. Do you think that this kind of enemy is easy to deal with? Or is it a new enemy that we don't know that is easy to deal with?" The big man was silent for a moment before he slowly nodded and said, "I understand, boss." Tan Xiu let out a faint smile. He turned his head to look out the window and no longer spoke. Ring, 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 his cell phone rang. Tan Xiu took out his mobile and looked at the caller ID. He found that it was Kang Xia calling. After he picked it up, he said with a smile, "Kang Xia, is there something you need from me?" "Boss, the YDL Mafia's second most powerful figure of the Tsubua clan wants to see you." Kang Xia's voice came from the phone, but her tone was particularly serious. Tan Xiu was silent for a moment before he asked, "Where is he?" "Star City." Kang Xia said, "You're tuning in to the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure."